My son told me I was ruining his marriage with one hand still on the refrigerator door. Cold air spilled across the kitchen floor. Behind him, a bottle of salad dressing tipped against a jar of pickles and stayed there. Evan didn't notice. His face had gone pale in a way I had only seen twice before. Once when he was 19 and put my truck through Susan's garage door, and once when the minister at his wedding asked whether anyone had an objection. "Laurel doesn't need this," he said. "This, you, showing up with accusations, digging into things that aren't your business." I hadn't raised my voice. I was still holding the lemon pie Laurel had asked me to bring. I asked who Hannah Price is. His fingers tightened on the refrigerator handle. "She's nobody. She says she's your daughter. That doesn't make her my daughter." It was an odd answer. Not "she's lying." Not, "I've never heard that name." Something narrower. I put the pie on the counter. "Does Laurel know?" That was when he slammed the refrigerator hard enough to rattle the magnets. "You don't understand my marriage," he said. "You keep pushing yourself into everything, and now you're going to ruin it." Laurel called from the dining room, asking if we needed help. Evan and I looked at each other. "No," he called back, never taking his eyes off me. "Dad just dropped something." 3 days earlier, I had been cleaning a coffee maker I didn't particularly like. Retirement does strange things to a man's standards. For 41 years, I repaired elevators. If a hospital car stopped 2 inches below the floor, people cared. There were measurements, procedures, consequences. Then I retired and found myself standing in my kitchen at 9 on a Tuesday morning, scraping mineral scale out of a machine that had cost me $28. My ex-wife Susan said I needed a hobby that didn't involve taking appliances apart. I told her I had several. She said, "Watching the Weather Channel with the sound off is not a hobby." We had been divorced for 22 years, which was apparently long enough for her to enjoy giving me advice again. My phone buzzed beside the sink. I expected Evan. He had developed a habit of checking on me every few days since I retired, usually by asking whether I had remembered something obvious. "Remember Thursday dinner. Don't forget your dentist appointment. Did you call about that gutter?" His concern always arrived with a small suggestion that I was becoming unreliable. I found it irritating and, if I'm honest, comforting. The message wasn't from Evan. It was from a woman whose name I didn't recognize. "Mr. Hale, my name is Hannah Price. This is going to sound strange, but I believe Evan Hale is my biological father. That would make you my grandfather. I'm sorry to contact you like this. I'm not asking for money. I'd just like to speak with you." I read it twice. Then I set my phone face down and went back to the coffee maker. People think calm men don't panic. We do. We just find something small to hold. I cleaned the same plastic basket for several minutes before rinsing it. Evan did not have a daughter. Evan and Laurel had spent years trying to have a family. There had been treatments, disappointments, and one Christmas when Laurel sat through dinner, smiling too brightly while Susan told a story about a neighbor's grandchildren. Afterward, Evan asked us not to mention family plans again. I had honored that request so thoroughly that even the word future sometimes felt dangerous around them. The phone buzzed again. "I understand if you think this is a scam. My mother's name is Rachel Price. She and Evan knew each other in Cedar Glen. I'm 25. I can tell you things about him, but I would rather do it in person." Rachel Price. I knew the name, though not well. She had been a year behind Evan at Cedar Glen Community College. Dark hair, big laugh, worked afternoons at a grocery store. Once, when Evan was 19, I had come home early and found Rachel sitting on our back steps while he tried to start a charcoal grill with a hairdryer. That was the extent of my knowledge. I sat at the kitchen table and looked up Rachel online. I found several women with that name, including a realtor in Arizona and someone who sold handmade soap. I stopped before I could turn suspicion into a full day's occupation. Then I called Evan. He didn't answer. I typed, "Do you know a Hannah Price?" I stared at it, but didn't send it. Something about the message felt like dropping a wrench down an open shaft. Once it fell, there would be no catching it. Instead, I replied to Hannah. "There's a diner on Route 8 called Millie's, tomorrow at 11. Public place. 30 minutes. Her answer came almost immediately. "Thank you. I'll be there." That evening, Evan called while I was heating soup. "Hey, Dad, everything okay?" "Everything's fine. You called?" I did. A pause. "What's up?" I looked at my unsent question on the screen. "The coffee maker's leaking. That's why you called?" I didn't say it was an important call. He laughed, but there was something distracted in it. Buy another one. It's 4 months old. It was $20, 28. Live a little. I could hear a television behind him and the soft clatter of dishes. Laurel said something I couldn't make out. Tell Laurel I'll bring dessert Sunday, I said. Sure, Lemon, if she still likes it. She does. Hey, I've got to go. You good? There it was again. You good? A small question that somehow made me feel 90. I'm good. Okay. Love you. Love you too. After we hung up, I ate my soup standing over the sink. Millie's Diner had chrome trim, cracked red booths, and a pie case that made every dessert look older than I was. I arrived 20 minutes early. Hannah arrived 12 minutes early, which I noticed because men who repair elevators notice timing. She paused inside the door and scanned the room. She was tall, with light brown hair pulled into a knot that had started coming loose. She wore work pants, sturdy boots, and a navy jacket with a stitched patch from an emergency veterinary clinic. She looked nothing like Evan until the waitress asked if she wanted coffee. Hannah tilted her head and said, "How old is it?" The waitress stared at her. "The coffee," Hannah said. That sounded rude. It was exactly the kind of question Evan would ask, right down to the delayed awareness that another person might not enjoy it. The waitress said the coffee was fresh. Hannah ordered tea. I stood when she approached. We shook hands. "Mr. Hale, Martin." "I'm Hannah," I gathered. She sat across from me and put her phone on the table, then moved it aside as if she didn't want it to look like a weapon. "You're probably wondering what I want. I'm wondering if this is true. That too." A waitress brought menus. Neither of us opened them. Hannah folded the corner of a paper napkin, pressed the crease flat, then folded it again. Evan used to do the same thing with straw wrappers. By the end of a meal, he would have a little white square dense enough to skip across water. I watched her fingers. She noticed. "What? Nothing?" That usually means something. "You sound like him?" Her hands stopped. I regretted saying it, not because it was cruel, but because of what it did to her face. Hope moved across it before she could prevent it. "How much do you know about my family?" I asked. "Not much." "I know you repaired elevators. I know Evan hates mayonnaise but eats egg salad, which makes no sense. I know his mother is named Susan, and I know he broke his left wrist jumping off a tool shed when he was 17. He was 15. He said 17. He always adds 2 years to his bad decisions." A laugh escaped her. It was quick and surprised. Then she looked down. I asked, "What did your mother tell you?" "That they dated. She got pregnant. He left for an apprenticeship program in Columbus." "A training program. Okay. He came home from that. Not to her." The waitress returned. I ordered coffee. Hannah ordered dry toast, which made me trust her less. Nobody under emotional stress should be allowed to order dry toast in a diner. When we were alone again, she said, "My mother didn't spend my whole life trashing him, if that's what you're worried about." She mostly avoided the subject. I knew his name. When I was 19, I looked him up and contacted him. Yes. I kept my voice level. Did he answer? She looked toward the window. A delivery truck rolled past, shaking the glass. "Hannah." "Yes," she said. He answered. Something shifted in the room, nothing visible. The plate still clinked behind the counter. An old man at the register argued about a coupon. But the version of my son I had carried into the diner moved slightly out of alignment. What did he say? At first, not much. He asked me questions about my mother. He wanted to know whether she was sick. Was she? No. He thought I was contacting him because something had happened to her. And then we met. I sat back. Where? Coffee shop in Westbridge. 6 years ago. Westbridge was 30 minutes from Evan's house. He and Laurel had already been married 8 years. How many times? 3 that year. Her toast arrived. She thanked the waitress and left it untouched. "He told me you were a good man," she continued. "He said you'd be shocked, but you'd probably want to know me. He talked about introducing us, but he didn't." "No. What happened?" He stopped answering. Then, almost a year later, he messaged me on my birthday. We met again. He apologized. He said things were complicated at home. With Laurel, he didn't use her name much. He called her his wife like she was a job title. That sounded unlike Evan, and then it sounded exactly like him. Hannah picked up a packet of sugar and rolled it between her palms. "He gave me something," she said. "What?" "An old radio. Wood case, cream-colored dial. He said it had belonged to you. I knew the radio." A 1956 Philco I had bought at a church sale and repaired with Evan when he was 16. It had sat on his bedroom shelf for years. I thought he'd lost it during one of his moves. He fixed the cord, Hannah said. He said he wanted me to have one thing from the family before I met everybody. I looked down at my coffee. A thin rainbow of oil trembled across the surface. When was the last time you saw him? 4 years ago. And you contacted me now because I'm getting married next spring. I must have reacted because she gave me a tired smile. No, I don't need a grandfather to walk me anywhere. I'm not trying to arrange a movie ending. My fiancée Leah knows everything. She finally asked me a question I couldn't answer. What question? Whether Evan didn't know how to be my father, or whether he didn't want anyone to know I existed. The waitress passed with a pot of coffee. I covered my cup. Hannah pushed the dry toast away. I'm not asking you to choose between us, she said. I just want the truth before I start my own marriage. If he never told you about me, say that. If he did, and you all decided, he never told me. She watched me for a long moment. Then she nodded once. I believe you. That should have relieved me. It didn't. Outside, beside her dented blue car, I asked for Evan's messages. She shook her head. I'm not putting my phone in your hand, so you can decide whether my life meets an evidence standard. That isn't what I meant. It's what you were doing in there. She wasn't entirely wrong. I asked, does he know you contacted me? No. Why not? Because the last time I warned him first, he had 3 days to explain me away. She opened her car door, then paused. He'll tell you I'm confused, she said. He'll tell you I want money. He might even say he never met me. And if he does? Her expression tightened, not with anger, but with something more practiced. Ask him why he repaired the radio before he gave it to me. Then she got into her car and drove away, leaving me in the parking lot with the first hard fact I could not sand smooth for my son. Evan had not just hidden a daughter from us. He had already known her. I sat in my truck until a man in a Millie's apron came outside and knocked on my window. You all right, sir? He had a trash bag in one hand and the concerned expression people reserve for older men sitting alone in parked vehicles. I'm fine. You sure? Yes. He pointed at the space behind me. Only asking because you're parked crooked. I looked in the mirror. My truck was angled across the line, like I had abandoned it during an earthquake. I'm considering a second career in parking enforcement, I said. He didn't laugh. Okay then. I drove home by way of 3 streets I didn't need to take. At a red light, I typed a message to Evan. Can you come by tonight? Before I sent it, I deleted it. I didn't want him in my house, where he knew how to become my son again. He would open my refrigerator, complain about the mustard, and ask why I still had a drawer full of dead batteries. Within 10 minutes, I would be defending the batteries, instead of asking about Hannah. I called Susan. She answered with, if you're calling about that coffee maker, throw it away. I'm not. Then you've made progress. Do you remember Rachel Price? Silence. Not the blank silence of someone searching a memory. The careful silence of someone deciding how much memory to admit. Yes, she said. How well? Well enough to know she had poor judgment in men. That describes half of Cedar Glen, including you. I corrected my mistake. So did I. Martin, what is this about? I pulled into the parking lot of a closed garden center. Dead flowers leaned against a chain-link fence in black plastic trays. Did Evan ever tell you Rachel had a daughter? He never told me Rachel had anything. Did he ever ask you about her? Not directly. I waited. Susan sighed. 6 or 7 years ago, he called me and asked a strange question. He said someone he'd known in college had contacted him. He wanted to know whether I remembered anything about her. What did you say? I asked if Laurel knew. Then he got defensive and said I was making assumptions. You thought he'd had an affair. I thought he might be considering one. He was vague, and vague men are usually standing next to something they don't want named. Susan had developed this philosophy after our divorce. During our marriage, she had preferred throwing a wooden spoon across the kitchen. Did he say the name Rachel? He said Rach once, then corrected himself to this person. Why? I watched a plastic bag caught in the garden center fence inflate and collapse in the wind. A woman contacted me. Hannah Price. She says she's Evan's daughter. Susan didn't speak for several seconds. Then she said, Oh, Evan, not surprise, recognition. You believe her already? I asked. I believe you didn't call me from a garden center because her story sounded ridiculous. How do you know where I am? I can hear that horrible metal sign banging. You took me there for mulch last year. We've been divorced 22 years, and you still know the sound of my parking lots. That's what I got, instead of alimony. She asked what Hannah wanted. I told her as much as I could, without turning the conversation into an argument for or against a woman Susan had never met. When I mentioned the radio, Susan exhaled sharply. He loved that thing. He gave it to Hannah. You mean he met her? Several times. And Laurel? I don't know. You need to find out. That was my intention. No, your intention is to ask Evan and accept whatever answer allows everyone to eat Sunday dinner. I stared through the windshield. Susan's voice softened, which irritated me more than if she had kept attacking. Martin, don't help him bury a person. I'm not helping anybody bury anybody. You've been carrying his shovel since 1998. Goodbye, Susan. Call me after. I said goodbye, and I heard you. She hung up first. At home, I went into the basement and stood in front of the empty space where the Philco had once been. I could still see the pale rectangle on the shelf where dust had gathered around it. For years, I had assumed it disappeared during Evan's move from his apartment to Laurel's house. I remembered repairing it with him. He had been impatient with the soldering iron and burned a crescent into my workbench. When the radio finally warmed to life, a baseball game came through under a wash of static. Evan had grinned like we had contacted another planet. He gave that radio to Hannah because he knew exactly what it meant. That was the part I couldn't fit around. If he had wanted to reject her, cruelty would have been simpler. He had done something tender first. My phone buzzed. It was Hannah. Thank you for meeting me. I typed 3 versions of a reply before settling on. I'm going to speak with him, she sent back, I figured. No warning, no demand. Somehow that made the message heavier. Sunday dinner had been Laurel's idea years earlier, back when she still believed routine could make our family intimate. We rotated houses, though Susan refused to host Evan and Laurel together after an argument about whether her dining chairs needed felt pads. That Sunday was at their place, a narrow brick house with blue shutters Laurel had painted herself. I arrived at 5 carrying the lemon pie and a bottle of wine. Evan opened the door before I knocked. You're early, by 4 minutes. I wasn't criticizing. You said it like a criticism. He smiled and took the wine. Retirement has made you sensitive. He looked rested. Gray had begun to show at his temples, but on him it appeared intentional. Evan had always been good-looking in a way that made strangers excuse him before he needed it. He wore a dark green sweater Laurel had bought him, the sleeves pushed to his elbows. For 1 weak second, I wanted Hannah to be mistaken. Laurel came from the kitchen wiping her hands on a towel. She was slender, sharp-featured, with black hair cut at her jaw. Her smiles usually looked as though she had approved them in advance. You brought lemon, she said. You asked for lemon. I asked Evan to ask you for lemon. Sometimes messages change in transit, he remembered. Her eyes moved to him. A Sunday miracle. She kissed my cheek. Evan looked away. Susan was already at the table arranging olives on her plate by size. She glanced at me once and understood I had not spoken to Evan yet. You two bring nothing? I asked her. I brought myself. Mom brought bread, Evan said. I bought bread. Bringing it implies effort. The conversation stayed harmless through salad. Susan complained about a pharmacy changing the shape of one of her pills. Laurel described a client who insisted his new kitchen should feel more European, but couldn't name a country. Evan did an impression of the man saying Tuscany with a British accent, and Laurel laughed in spite of herself. They still had that. Whatever else was wrong between them, he could make her laugh when she wanted not to. I watched them pass dishes. Evan touched Laurel's wrist when reaching for the pepper. She pulled her hand away to move her water glass, or perhaps because she didn't want him touching her. Small motions become suspicious when you arrive carrying a secret. Halfway through the chicken, Laurel asked how I was adjusting to retirement. Fine. Are you sleeping better? I sleep well. Evan said you've been restless. Evan cut into his chicken. I said he was getting used to a new schedule. You said he called you at midnight last week. My fork stopped. Evan looked at me. You don't remember? I remember being asleep at midnight. It might have been the week before. No. He gave a small shrug. Maybe I'm mixing it up with somebody else. Who else calls you at midnight? Laurel asked. It wasn't important. She looked down at her plate. The silence that followed had edges. I understood then that Hannah was not a separate room in Evan's life. My name was already being used inside the marriage to hold doors closed. After dinner, Laurel brought out the pie. Susan volunteered to help with the plates, something she had never done in any house, including her own. Evan carried the wine into the kitchen. I followed him. He opened the refrigerator. "Who is Hannah Price?" I asked. The moment unfolded exactly as it later remained in my memory. The open refrigerator, the tilted salad dressing, the cold air, and Evan's hand frozen on the handle. By the time Laurel called from the dining room, he had accused me of pushing into his marriage. "No," he called back. "Dad just dropped something." I looked at the floor. "What did I drop?" His voice lowered. "Not here. You knew her. Dad. You met her." He shut the refrigerator more carefully this time. "We are not doing this with Laurel 15 feet away. Then we'll go outside." I said not here. Susan appeared in the doorway holding 2 plates and a serving spoon. "Everything all right?" she asked. Evan smiled. Apparently Dad has decided to interrogate me during dessert. Laurel stepped behind Susan. "About what?" "No one is interrogating anyone," I said. Evan's eyes warned me. It was not a threatening look. It was worse. It was the look he had given me when he was 8 and broke a neighbor's window, asking me without words to keep the world from changing. I kept quiet. We ate pie. Laurel took 2 bites and put down her fork. Susan talked about a documentary she had not enjoyed. Evan became unusually attentive, refilling water glasses and offering coffee no one wanted. When I stood to leave, he grabbed his coat. "I'll walk Dad out." The evening had turned cold. My truck sat under a street lamp, its windshield silver with mist. Evan waited until the front door closed. "You had no right to bring that into my house. I asked a question in your kitchen. You knew Laurel could hear. Did you meet Hannah?" He shoved his hands into his coat pockets. "She contacted me years ago." "That isn't an answer. I met her a few times." I was trying to understand the situation. She's not a situation. You spent 30 minutes with her, and now you know everything? I know you gave her the Philco. His head jerked slightly. That was answer enough. She showed it to you? She told me. Evan looked toward the house. Laurel's silhouette moved behind the curtains. "You have no idea what she's like," he said. "She gets attached. She creates these expectations, and then anything less than exactly what she wants becomes abandonment. She expected you to admit she existed. I was trying to protect my marriage. From a daughter you had before you met Laurel. You think the timing makes it simple? I think telling the truth would have made it simpler." He laughed once without humor. "That's rich coming from you. What's that supposed to mean? You and Mom spent years lying to me about why your marriage ended. Your mother and I did not involve you in every ugly detail." "Exactly. You protected me from things I didn't need to know. That's what adults do. Laurel is your wife, not a 10-year-old. His face tightened. "Keep your voice down?" "No." The porch light came on. Evan stepped closer. "Listen to me. Hannah does not want a relationship. She wants access, attention. She finds whatever crack exists and pushes into it. That isn't what I saw. You saw what she wanted you to see. And what do you want me to see?" For a moment, neither of us spoke. His anger shifted. When he spoke again, his voice was tired and almost gentle. "Dad, Laurel, and I are having problems. Serious problems. This could finish us." I looked past him at the house. Laurel stood behind the curtain now, still enough that I knew she was watching. "What kind of problems?" "I'm not discussing that out here. Does she think you've been with me on nights you haven't?" Evan blinked. That small reaction frightened me more than the shouting. Where did that come from? "Answer me." He rubbed both hands over his face. "I need you to let this go for a few days." "Why?" "So I can figure out how to handle it. You've had 6 years. I'm asking you as my father. There are requests that sound like affection because they have always worked that way." Evan put a hand on my shoulder. "Don't contact Hannah again. Don't tell Laurel. Give me 1 week to fix this without blowing up everybody's life." Through the front window, Susan's face briefly appeared beside Laurel's, then vanished. 1 week, Evan said. "Please." I should have told him no. Instead, I stood beside my truck with my son's hand on my shoulder and asked the question I had used to excuse him all his life. "What are you going to do?" I'm going to talk to her, Evan said. Then I'm going to talk to Laurel. In that order? Yes. Why? Because I need to know what Hannah plans to say. The truth, probably. He stepped away from me. You've known her for 1 cup of coffee, and suddenly I'm the defendant. I asked what you were going to do, and I told you. No, you gave me a sequence. His mouth tightened. He had inherited that from Susan. I knew because I had spent 20 years watching it across a dinner table. I'll call Hannah tomorrow, he said. I'll explain that involving you was unfair. Then I'll sit down with Laurel when I understand what Hannah wants. She told me what she wants. Of course she did. Why do you say it like that? Because you don't know her. You keep saying that as if it helps you. The front door opened. Laurel stood on the porch with my pie plate wrapped in aluminum foil. You forgot this. I didn't forget it, I said. There was still pie on it. She came down 2 steps. Evan, your mother's asking whether she left her scarf here. She came wearing a scarf? She says she did. She didn't. Laurel looked between us. Am I interrupting something? Evan answered before I could. Dad's concerned about the gutters. My gutters? His. Laurel's eyes stayed on me. At night? It gets dark early, Evan said. Nobody laughed. She handed me the plate. Thank you for dessert. You're welcome. She went inside, but the door remained open until Evan followed her. He turned once before he did. 1 week, he said quietly. I drove home with the pie plate sliding back and forth on the passenger seat. Susan called before I reached the highway. What did he say? I'm driving. You have speakers. I don't discuss family crises through the dashboard. So it is a family crisis. You already knew that. Did he admit she's his daughter? He admitted he met her. That wasn't my question. He's going to speak with Hannah tomorrow. Susan made a noise that sounded like a drawer sticking. And you believe him? I believe I said I wouldn't do anything for a week. You agreed to that? I agreed to let him tell his wife himself. Martin. What? Your son has had 6 years to tell his wife. He asked me for 7 days. He always asks for a little more road when the cliff is directly in front of him. I changed lanes too sharply. A horn sounded behind me. I'm hanging up now. Did Laurel hear the name? No. Did you lie to her? I didn't tell her anything. That is not what I asked. You should find your scarf. My scarf is in my purse. I wanted to know why you two were outside. Sometimes I wondered how our marriage had lasted as long as it did. Then I remembered we had spent most of it at work. I hung up. The next morning, I replaced the coffee maker's cracked rubber seal with one from a box of assorted gaskets in my basement. The fit wasn't perfect, but it stopped the leak. I made 3 cups to test it and drank all 3 because waste bothered me more than sleep. At 10, Evan sent me a message. Going to handle Hannah today. Please don't respond if she reaches out first. She's emotional and may try to play us against each other. Us. There was comfort in that word. He and I on the same side, standing against an intrusion. I had lived inside versions of that arrangement since he was old enough to blame another boy for an empty jar. I wrote, "Call me after you speak to her." He replied with a thumbs up. By 4, he had not called. At 6, Hannah sent me a photograph of the Philco radio. It sat on a plain wooden shelf beside a ceramic bird and a stack of veterinary manuals. The case had been polished. The cream dial glowed softly. Evan's repair must have held. I thought you might want to see it, she wrote. I studied the grain of the wood. The crescent soldering burn wasn't visible, but I could picture it on my workbench downstairs. I replied, he said he was going to call you today. The dots appeared, vanished, then appeared again. He didn't. I called Evan. He sent me to voicemail after 2 rings. I tried again. This time it rang until the recorded message. At 7:30, he called back. I was in the shower. You didn't speak with Hannah. A pause. She called you? She sent me a photograph. Of course she did. Of the radio. Dad, I had a brutal day. Can we not do this like I'm reporting to a supervisor? You said you would call her. I tried. She says you didn't. I started to. Then Laurel came home early. You don't need Laurel's permission to use a phone. That isn't the point. What is the point? He breathed out slowly. Things are worse here than I told you. I waited. Laurel thinks I've been lying about where I go. Have you? Not the way she means. That sentence needs more words. I've taken drives. I've sat in parking lots. I've gone to a bar a few times without telling her. Why? Because I can't breathe in this house some nights. The anger in his voice gave way so suddenly that I heard the exhaustion underneath. It sounded real. That was Evan's most confusing quality. His pain was often genuine, even when the story around it was not. "Are you seeing someone?" I asked. "No." "Is there something else you're hiding?" A long silence. Then he said, "I'm trying to keep my marriage together. Apparently, that makes me suspicious. You're keeping it together with lies. I haven't told one lie that changed anything." I looked at the radio photograph still open on my screen. "You told Laurel you were with me when you weren't. I said you'd called." "That's not the same. At midnight. I mixed up the date. Did you?" He didn't answer. I heard a door close on his end. His voice dropped. "She may call you." "What about?" "Last Wednesday." "Were you supposed to be with me?" "I told her I stopped by." "You didn't." "I know." "Where were you?" "Driving." "For 4 hours?" I lost track of time. "Then tell her that." "You don't understand how she gets. She hears one uncertainty and turns it into a trial. You're asking me to lie. I'm asking you not to make a bad week worse. That sounds like a lie wearing a necktie." He almost laughed. I heard it catch in his throat. "Just say I came by because you were having trouble with the furnace." "My furnace is fine." "She doesn't inspect furnaces, Dad. I do." "Please." I closed my eyes. 7 days, he said. That's all I asked for. I told him I would not volunteer anything. He treated that as agreement. Laurel called the next afternoon. I was in the basement sanding an oak cabinet door for a neighbor who had not asked me to sand it. I heard the phone vibrating on the workbench and saw her name. "Hello? Martin, is this a bad time? I'm sanding something that was acceptable before I started. Go ahead." She didn't respond to the joke. "Did Evan come to your house last Wednesday?" Direct questions should make honesty easier. That is their purpose. I set down the sanding block. "Why are you asking?" "Because he said he did." He stops by. "Last Wednesday." The basement doorbell rang upstairs. I'd have to check. "Check what?" "My calendar." "You keep a calendar of when your son visits?" "No." "Then what are you checking?" The bell rang again. I walked up the stairs with the phone against my ear. Through the glass in the front door, I saw Hannah holding the Philco radio against her chest. "Martin?" Laurel said. I opened the door. Hannah looked from my face to the phone. "Bad time?" "No." "Come in." Laurel heard her voice. "Who's there?" she asked. My mind separated into two clean choices. One required a sentence. The other required only a name. "It's a neighbor," I said. Hannah's expression changed. I stepped aside, but she remained on the porch. Laurel went quiet. "Did Evan come by Wednesday?" she asked again. The radio's wooden case was pressed into Hannah's jacket. One corner had been repaired with a darker strip of veneer. Evan's work. Careful work. "Yes," I said. "He came by." "What time?" "I don't remember." "Why, I was having trouble with the furnace." Across from me, Hannah closed her eyes. Laurel thanked me. Her voice had become formal, the way people sound when they are embarrassed to have asked for help. After the call ended, Hannah walked past me into the house. I followed her downstairs. She knew where to go because I told her I had a workshop in the basement. She placed the radio on the bench beneath the empty shelf where it had once sat. "You lied to his wife," she said. "It was more complicated than that." "No, the explanation is more complicated. The lie was short. I gave him a week to tell her. He asked me for time too." She ran one hand across the top of the radio. "The first time, he said he needed a month. I gave him 6. The second time, he said Laurel was dealing with something, and he couldn't add stress. I waited another year. Every time he came back, I thought the fact that he returned meant I mattered. Hannah, I'm not angry because you chose him. He's your son. I expected that. I haven't chosen anybody. You just turned me into a neighbor so he could keep lying." The words landed harder because she didn't raise her voice. "I was going to tell Laurel," I said. When Evan had a chance to do it himself. He has had my whole life." I looked at the radio between us. "I'm trying not to destroy a marriage, and I'm trying not to beg another Hale to admit I exist." She picked up her car keys from the bench. "You should keep the radio. I can't take this. It was yours before it was his. It's yours now." "No." Her voice broke on the word, and she pressed her lips together until it steadied. "He gave it to me as a promise. I don't want furniture made out of promises anymore." She started toward the stairs. "Hannah, wait." She stopped but did not turn around. "I'm sorry. I know. I mean it." So did he. That silenced me. She faced me then, her eyes wet but impatient with it. "You don't have to fix what Evan did," she said. "You just have to decide whether you're going to keep helping him do it." Then she left. I heard the front door close above me. A few seconds later, her car started and pulled away. The radio remained on my workbench, its dial dark, its cord wrapped neatly around the back. I stood there until the basement lights shut themselves off. I found the pull chain by touch and turned the lights back on. The radio looked smaller than I remembered. Age does that to certain objects: childhood houses, old injuries, people you once feared. In my memory, the Philco had taken up half the workbench. Now I could lift it with one hand. I unwound the cord and checked the repair Evan had made. New cloth-covered wire, properly tied, clean solder joints underneath. He had replaced 2 brittle capacitors and reinforced the corner with walnut veneer. Careful work, as I'd noticed. Not the work of a man trying to get rid of something. I plugged it in. The dial glowed amber. The speaker hummed, then produced static and a distant voice discussing soybean prices. I sat on the stool and listened to farm prices at 10:30 at night. My phone lay beside the sanding block. I picked it up several times. Hannah had told me exactly what not to do. Fix what Evan had done. Any message I sent risked becoming another promise from a Hale man who felt sincere while making it. I typed, "I lied because I was afraid of losing my son." That was wrong. I deleted it. I typed, "You were right." That looked like a man congratulating himself for learning something at another person's expense. I deleted that too. Finally, I sent, "I won't ask you to answer tonight. I'm sorry I called you a neighbor and helped him lie." The message showed as delivered. No answer came. Susan was on my porch at 8 the next morning, holding 2 coffees and wearing the scarf she had pretended to lose. "I didn't invite you," I said. "You sounded terrible when you hung up yesterday. That was 2 days ago. You've sounded terrible consistently." She handed me a cup and walked inside. Divorce had removed her legal right to enter without permission, but had done nothing to her habits. We went to the basement. She stopped halfway down the stairs when she saw the radio. "Well," she said, "Hannah brought it and left it?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I lied to Laurel while Hannah was standing in my front hall." Susan continued down the steps slowly. "What lie?" "I said Evan was here last Wednesday." "Was he?" "No." She placed her coffee on the workbench with great care. "Why would you do that?" "He asked me for a week. A week to do what?" "Tell Laurel about Hannah and whatever else is going on." Susan looked at me as if I had started speaking another language. "You let him bundle those things together?" "I didn't let him do anything." "You gave him a deadline that made his marriage your responsibility." "I was trying to give him a chance." "He's 44. How many chances become permission?" I reached past her and switched off the radio. "He said their marriage is in serious trouble." "Their marriage has been in serious trouble since they began using Sunday dinner as evidence they enjoy each other. They do enjoy each other. Sometimes. That's what makes bad relationships difficult. If everyone hated each other all day, there'd be no confusion." I picked up my coffee as she had put sugar in it, despite knowing I took it black. "You did this on purpose. You need sweetness. I need coffee. You need to call Laurel." "I know, today." I said I know. Susan examined the repaired corner of the radio. Her thumb moved over the darker strip. "He did a nice job." "Yes. That's almost worse." I knew what she meant. Cruel people were easier to understand if they were careless all the time. Evan could spend an hour matching wood grain for a daughter he later ignored. Susan sat on the stool. "Do you remember when he broke Mrs. Kemp's window? With a baseball. He told her you hit it while showing him how to throw a curve. He was 8, and you paid for the window without correcting him. I wasn't going to shame an 8-year-old in front of a neighbor. You could have told the truth without building a stage. He admitted it later, to you, not to her. He was embarrassed." Susan gave me a flat look. "You always made his embarrassment more important than the person standing in broken glass." I leaned against the bench. "You think this is all my fault?" "No. I think you like fault because it gives you something to repair. I'm talking about your part. What was yours?" Her eyes sharpened, then softened again. "I let you be the easy parent," she said. "I got tired of arguing with both of you, so I became the woman who said no while you quietly made yes happen. Then you wondered why he came to you whenever he wanted reality adjusted." There was no satisfaction in her voice. That made it harder to dismiss. I looked at my phone. "Call Laurel," Susan said. "Stop saying it. Call Laurel." I did, mostly so she would stop. Laurel answered on the fifth ring. "Hi, Martin." Her tone was pleasant and empty. "I need to correct what I told you yesterday." Susan turned away, giving me the privacy of remaining 6 feet from me. "What did you tell me yesterday?" Laurel asked. "About Evan coming here Wednesday." A pause. "I remember. He wasn't here. I heard a cabinet close on her end." "Why did you say he was?" "Because he asked me to." Another pause, longer this time. "When did he ask?" "The night before you called, so he knew I was going to ask you." "He thought you might." "Where was he?" "I don't know." "Did he tell you?" "He said he was driving." "For 4 hours." "That's what he said." Laurel breathed in slowly. "Is there anything else you lied to me about?" The truthful answer was yes. I had called Hannah a neighbor. I had sat at Laurel's table knowing her husband had a daughter. I had allowed Evan to use the phrase serious problems, as if it excused all facts concealed beneath it. "Yes," I said. Susan looked back at me. "What?" Laurel asked. "I'm not sure how to tell you over the phone." "You manage the lie over the phone." "That's fair." "Is Evan with you now?" "No." "Is Susan?" I glanced at her. "Yes." "Of course." "What does that mean?" "It means everybody seems to be standing in a room I'm not allowed into." "Laurel, I'm trying to open the door." "No." "You're calling after the meeting." "There was no meeting." She laughed once quietly. "Please don't insult me while confessing." The line went dead. Susan took the coffee from my hand before I crushed the paper cup. "That went well," I said. "You told the truth." And she feels better already. The truth is not medicine, Martin. It doesn't promise immediate relief. You practice that line? For our entire marriage. She stayed until noon. We ate eggs, argued about whether my upstairs rug had always been crooked, and did not mention Hannah again. On her way out, Susan touched my arm. "Don't make Laurel come to you for every piece," she said. "Whatever loyalty you think you owe Evan, decide whether it includes helping him make her feel foolish." 40 minutes after Susan left, Evan pulled into my driveway hard enough to send gravel against the garage door. He entered through the side door without knocking. "What did you say to her?" "I said you weren't here Wednesday." "I know that." "What else?" "Nothing yet." "Nothing yet?" He paced into the kitchen, still wearing his office clothes. His tie was loose, and there was a red mark along his jaw where he had apparently been pressing his fist. She packed a bag. "Where did she go?" "Her sister's. All because I corrected one lie?" "No, Dad. Not all because of one lie. Don't act stupid." "I'm not acting." He stopped pacing. "I didn't mean it like that." "How did you mean it?" "I mean, you know we've had issues. You know she's suspicious. You told me yesterday that she turns uncertainty into a trial. Today you're saying she was right. I'm saying you don't know the context. You have a strong relationship with context. It follows you everywhere. Can you not make jokes? I can stop when you start answering." He pulled out a chair but didn't sit. "Where were you Wednesday?" I asked. "I told you." "Driving and drinking." "I said I've gone to a bar a few times. I didn't say I was drinking Wednesday." "Where did you go?" "Nowhere. That takes less than 4 hours." I drove out past Copley, parked by the reservoir, and sat there. Why? Because I didn't want to go home. There was no hesitation in the answer. I believed that part. What happened at home? Nothing happened. That's the problem. Every conversation feels like the start of an inspection. Where were you? Who called? Why didn't you answer? Why are you quiet? I feel like I need a receipt for my own thoughts. You created reasons for her to inspect. I created reasons because she was already doing it. The circle closed neatly around him. I opened the refrigerator and took out 2 bottles of water. He refused the one I offered. "Did you call Hannah?" "No, you promised." "I promised to handle it." "You promised to call her." He looked toward the hallway, as if someone might be listening from my empty living room. "You told Laurel there was something else." "Yes." "So, now I have to explain why my father is making mysterious accusations." "There's nothing mysterious about Hannah." His voice dropped. "You need to stop saying her name like she's already family. She is family. You don't know that for certain. You know?" He looked at me. The fight left his face for a moment, revealing something smaller and meaner underneath. "I know Rachel told me she was mine," he said. "That isn't the same as knowing. You met Hannah 4 times. 3. She said 4. She's counting the times she showed up without warning. The correction came too quickly. I let the silence do what my questions could not." Evan sat down. I didn't ask for this, he said. Neither did she. You think because she seems calm, she's harmless. She contacted me when Laurel and I were at our worst. She wanted to be introduced immediately. She wanted holidays. She wanted some kind of father-daughter relationship, as if 20 years hadn't happened. She wanted to know you, and I tried. You gave her the radio. He rubbed his eyes. I wanted her to have something. Then why did you disappear? Because Laurel found a message. My stomach tightened. What message? Nothing explicit. Hannah's name on my phone. I said she was someone from work. So Laurel asked about Hannah 6 years ago. She asked about a name. That's different. It is different. It's worse. He stood so quickly the chair scraped backward. This is exactly why I couldn't tell you. You get this tone and decide there is one correct way to live. I've spent your whole life pretending there were several correct versions of the truth. And now you want to punish me because some stranger made you feel needed. The words struck cleanly. He saw it. For an instant, regret crossed his face. Then he defended himself from it. You're lonely, he said. You've been different since retirement. You latch on to projects. The coffee maker, the neighbor's cabinet, now Hannah. A person is not a cabinet, I know that. Do you? His phone buzzed. He checked it and turned the screen away. Laurel? I asked. No. You should tell her tonight. She won't speak to me. Then write it. She'll think you put me up to it. She already thinks we've had a meeting. His eyes moved to the basement door. Is the radio here? Yes. He took one step toward it. I moved between him and the door. You're not taking it. It belongs to me. You gave it to Hannah. She gave it to me. His face changed again. She was here? Yesterday. And you let her into your house? She came through the door. It's traditional. What did you tell her about me? The least flattering thing I told her was the truth. He stared at me as though I had betrayed him. You have no idea what you're doing, he said. Laurel already thinks you're confused. If you start telling her stories about some woman claiming to be my daughter, you told Laurel I'm confused? I said retirement has been hard on you. Why? Because you called her and changed your story. I changed a lie into the truth. That's not how it looked. There it was. The shape Evan had already prepared for me. Not cruel father, not interfering father, unreliable father. He reached for his coat. Do not contact Laurel again, he said. You've done enough. After he left, I went downstairs and turned on the Philco. The voice came slowly through the static, warm and distant. I adjusted the dial until the words sharpened. Then the doorbell rang. Laurel stood on my porch holding an overnight bag. Her eyes moved past me into the house. Before Evan tells me I shouldn't trust you, she said, I'd like you to tell me who Hannah is. I stepped aside. Laurel entered but kept her coat on. The overnight bag remained looped over her shoulder. It was gray canvas, the kind of bag intended for pleasant weekends and terrible departures. Is Evan here? She asked. He left 5 minutes ago. Of course he did. She set the bag beside the stairs. He said you met a woman online. I didn't meet her online. She contacted me online. He said she claims to be related to us. She is related to us. He said you don't know that. He knows it? Laurel studied my face. She looked exhausted, but not in the loose, tearful way Evan had described. Her exhaustion was contained. Every part of her seemed held in place by a private set of clamps. Coffee? I asked. No. Tea? No. Water? Martin, if you ask whether I want a sandwich, I'm leaving. I wasn't going to ask that. You were thinking about it. I have ham. Her mouth almost moved. She took off her coat and laid it over the arm of the sofa. Then she sat at one end and waited. I chose the chair across from her. Sitting beside her would have suggested a closeness we didn't have. Sitting at the dining table would have felt like a business meeting. Families are built partly out of deciding which furniture can survive a conversation. Her name is Hannah Price, I said. She's 25. Her mother is Rachel Price. Rachel and Evan knew each other when they were young. How young? 19. Laurel nodded once. And Evan says she's his daughter? Hannah says it. Evan avoids the word. Do you believe her? Yes. Because she looks like him? That's part of it. What's the rest? I told her about the diner. I told her Evan had met Hannah several times, beginning 6 years earlier. I told her about the promises and the disappearances. I left out Hannah's fiancé and the reason she wanted answers now. Those belonged to Hannah. Laurel listened without interrupting. When I mentioned the Philco, her gaze shifted toward the basement door. The old radio from his apartment? You remember it? I packed it when we moved into the house. It sat in a box for years. Evan told me he sold it. It's downstairs. She stared at the door. He gave it to her? Yes. When? 6 years ago. The clamps began to fail. Her left hand tightened around her right wrist, pressing the skin white. 6 years, she said. Yes. Are you sure? That's what Hannah told me. Evan corrected how many times they met. He knew exactly which meetings she counted. Laurel rose and walked toward the kitchen. She stopped halfway there, turned, and went to the window instead. I stayed seated. 6 years ago, she said again. Do you know what we were doing 6 years ago? I did generally, but I wasn't going to pretend I knew the calendar of their private grief. No. We had just stopped treatment. Her back remained toward me. The doctor told us another cycle was unlikely to work. I wanted to try one more time. Evan said we were destroying ourselves. He said he couldn't watch me keep hoping for something that wasn't going to happen. She laughed under her breath. He already knew about her. I'm sorry. Don't. I closed my mouth. Laurel pressed 2 fingers against the window glass. Outside, my neighbor was dragging a blue recycling bin to the curb. Its wheels thumped over every seam in the sidewalk. Did Hannah know? She asked. About the treatments? About me? About what we were going through? I don't know. Did he talk about me? She said he called you his wife, like it was a job title. Laurel turned around. That sounds like him when he wants sympathy. She walked back to the sofa, but did not sit. What did he tell you about our marriage? That you were suspicious, that you question where he goes and why he doesn't answer. Did he tell you why? No. Because there is always an explanation. And the explanation is always just possible enough to make me feel ashamed for asking. If he comes home 2 hours late, he was helping someone from work. If I ask which person, I'm controlling. If he spends an evening driving around, he needed space because I made the house tense. If I ask why his phone was off, I'm conducting a trial. He used me as an explanation. Yes. How often? I don't know. Estimate. Her expression hardened. Why? So you can decide whether it counts? No. So I can understand how long I've been helping. She sat again. At least 3 years, she said. Probably longer. You needed a shelf moved. You were upset about retirement. Your blood pressure was high. You'd had a fight with Susan. You called him because the basement smelled like gas. My basement has never smelled like gas. I know that now. I never asked him to move a shelf. I know that now too. Each sentence removed a piece of scenery from the family I thought I lived in. I believed you resented me, I said. Laurel looked genuinely surprised. Why? Evan said you thought I demanded too much of his time. He told me you thought I was keeping him away from you. We sat with that. He's been placing us on opposite sides, she said. Yes, for years. Yes. She covered her face, not crying, simply hiding for a moment. I thought of every guarded greeting between us. Every time Laurel had declined an invitation because Evan said she was tired. Every time I had stopped myself from calling because he warned me she thought I interfered. I owe you an apology, I said. She lowered her hands. For what? I decided you were cold instead of asking why you were careful around me. Evan gave you reasons. I accepted them because they made me the injured person. That's an unusual apology. Susan says I overcomplicate the common ones. That got the smallest breath of laughter from her. Then her phone vibrated in her coat pocket. Neither of us moved. It vibrated again. Evan, I asked. Yes. You should answer if you want to. Thank you for explaining phones. She took it out and read the message. He says you're not well. I'm aware. He says you become fixated on Hannah because retirement left you without purpose. That was quick. He says Susan encouraged it because she has never forgiven him for choosing me. Susan barely forgave him for putting a hot pan on her dining table. Laurel read another message. Now he says Hannah has contacted multiple relatives. She contacted me. Anyone else? Not that I know. He says she demanded money. She specifically said she didn't want money. You believe everything she says. No, I believe the parts Evan accidentally confirms. Laurel put the phone face down on the cushion. Can I see the radio? We went downstairs. The Philco still sat on the workbench with its dial glowing. I had left it on. A late afternoon jazz program moved softly beneath the static. Laurel approached it as if it might react to her. I remember this scratch. She touched a thin mark along the side. It happened when we moved. Evan blamed the movers, but he was the one who dropped the box. He always adds 2 years to his bad decisions and subtracts himself from the small ones. She ran her finger over the repaired veneer. He told me he sold it for $50. I thought he lost it. He gave it to her. Yes. Laurel's eyes filled, though her voice remained steady. That means it wasn't one impulsive meeting. He brought this down here, repaired it, wrapped it, and carried it to her. He made a choice more than once. She looked around the workshop. Did Hannah come here? Yesterday. That's who was at the door when I called. Yes. And you called her a neighbor. Yes. Laurel turned sharply. Why? Because Evan asked me for a week. To hide her, to tell you himself. And you believed him? I wanted to. That isn't the same thing. No. She waited for me to explain further. I didn't. There are apologies that become insults once a man starts decorating them with his intentions. I was wrong, I said. Her face softened slightly, which I did not deserve and did not refuse. Did she hear you lie about Wednesday? Yes. What did she do? Left the radio and told me she wouldn't beg another Hale to admit she existed. Laurel looked at the workbench. I'd like to meet her. That decision isn't mine. You have her number. I won't give it to you without asking. I'm not going to attack her. I didn't think you would. Then what? She has been pulled toward this family and pushed away whenever it suited Evan. I'm not pulling her anywhere tonight. Laurel folded her arms. You're protecting her. I'm trying to respect one thing she actually asked for. The distinction seemed to matter to her. She nodded. Can you tell her I know? I can. And tell her I'm sorry. For what? For being married to him? That isn't something you did to her. It feels like it. Her phone vibrated again upstairs. She ignored it. Where will you stay? I asked. My sister's. Does Evan know? He knows I left. He doesn't know where. He'll assume Susan's. He always assumes conflict is gathering at Susan's. He's not entirely wrong. Laurel looked at the radio for another moment, then reached behind it and unplugged the cord. The dial faded slowly. I can't listen to that, she said. That's fair. We went upstairs. At the front door she put on her coat, but left the overnight bag by the stairs. Your bag, I said. I know. You're leaving it? I don't want to walk into my sister's house carrying proof that I left my husband. The coat might suggest you don't live there. She gave me a look. I can bring it tomorrow, I said. Thank you. Her hand rested on the doorknob. Martin, did Evan tell you I didn't want children anymore? He said you both decided to stop trying. That wasn't what I asked. I thought back to Evan's careful phrases. Laurel needs to move on. It's better not to bring up family plans. We're finally accepting our life. He made it sound like you were relieved to be done, I said. She nodded as though confirming something to herself. I spent a year believing he was grieving with me, she said. He held me while I apologized for not being able to give him a family. You don't owe him that apology. I know that now. She opened the door, then turned back. He wasn't afraid I would reject Hannah, she said. He was afraid I would want her. She left before I could answer. Her overnight bag remained beside my stairs, and below us, in the basement, the radio cooled in silence. I carried Laurel's bag into the kitchen and set it on a chair. Then I moved it to the table because chairs are for people. Then I moved it back because the table had a damp ring from Evan's untouched water bottle. There are moments when a man needs a clear moral purpose. There are other moments when he needs to stop rearranging luggage. I messaged Hannah. Laurel knows about you. She came here tonight. She would like to meet you, but I did not give her your number. If you want no contact, I will respect that. I read the message after sending it and noticed I had made myself sound more reliable than recent events supported. A second message followed. I also told her I lied about Evan being here. I'm not asking that to undo what you heard. Hannah did not answer. At 9:15, Evan called. Is Laurel there? No. Has she been there? Yes. The silence on his end was so complete, I could hear my kitchen clock clicking. What did you tell her? The truth. All of it? I told her about Hannah. He inhaled through his nose. You had no right. You've used that sentence already. Because you keep doing things you have no right to do. Your wife asked me a direct question. You could have told her to ask me. She did ask you. For 6 years. You don't know what she asked me. Did you tell her Hannah was your daughter? No. Then we've narrowed it down. He began pacing. I knew the rhythm of his footsteps from years of phone calls. 4 steps, turn, 3 steps. Something in the way. Did Laurel say where she's staying? She said her sister's. Janine's? She has another sister? You weren't supposed to tell anyone. Everyone involved is over 40. Stop acting like we're exchanging military coordinates. You think this is funny? No. The doorbell rang. Through the front window, I saw Evan standing on my porch with his phone to his ear. You could have mentioned you were outside, I said. You could open the door. I let him in. He ended the call and stepped past me. His gaze landed immediately on Laurel's bag. She was here. I told you she was. She left that? Yes. He reached for it. Leave it, I said. I'll take it to her. She asked me to bring it. His hand closed around the strap. She's my wife, and it's her bag. Do you hear yourself? Yes. Do you? He lifted it from the chair. I put my hand on the other strap. We stood in my kitchen, 2 grown men holding opposite ends of an overnight bag, like the last discounted television in a department store. Let go, he said. No. Dad. She left it with me. To punish me. She didn't know you were coming. She knew I'd see it eventually. You're inventing a great deal of planning for a woman who forgot her socks. His eyes flicked toward the zipper. I don't know if she packs socks, I said. For some reason, that broke the tension. Not much. His grip loosened, and I put the bag back on the chair. He walked to the sink and stared into the dark window above it. What did she say about me? That conversation was private. You just told her everything Hannah said. I told her things about her own marriage. So Hannah gets privacy, Laurel gets truth. And I get what? An opportunity you've been wasting. He turned. I was going to tell her. When? When I knew she wouldn't react like this. That sounds like never with nicer shoes. She left me, Dad. His voice cracked. The fact that I was angry did not stop me from hearing it. For 1 second, he was the boy outside Mrs. Kemp's house, afraid a broken thing could not be put back. I sat at the table. After a moment, he sat across from me. Did she say it was over? I asked. She said she needed to get away from me. That isn't the same. It feels the same. Feelings aren't medicine either. What? Something your mother said. Of course she did. He bent forward, hands clasped between his knees. You don't know what these last few years have been like. Then tell me. I can't say anything without it becoming proof against me. I'm not a court. You act like one now. I've asked where you went and why you hid your daughter. I didn't hide her from you to hurt you. You hid her because you knew I would ask you to be decent. He looked up. You weren't exactly there when it happened. What does that mean? When Rachel got pregnant, you were working 12-hour days. You and Mom were already tearing each other apart. I was barely keeping my head above water, and when I tried to talk to you, you told me I needed to take responsibility for my own mistakes. I didn't know what you were talking about. That was the problem. The answer struck a place I had kept protected by chronology. I had known our home was miserable then. I had known Evan was drifting. I had mistaken his secrecy for moodiness, because I had elevators stopped across 3 counties and a marriage stopped inside my house. You could have said the words, I told him. I was 19. And Rachel was? 19. He looked away. Whatever sympathy had opened in me remained, but it no longer provided an exit. You were young when Hannah was born, I said. You were 38 when she found you. He rubbed his palms together. Tell Laurel that. I will not speak for you again. I'm not asking you to lie. You're asking me to arrange the light. His jaw tightened. I need her to come home. That decision belongs to her. And if she doesn't, then you live through what you did without making someone else the cause. He stood. You're enjoying this. I nearly answered too quickly. Instead, I asked, what would be enjoyable about it? You get to be the honest one. Mom gets to say she always knew. Laurel gets to be betrayed. Hannah gets a family. Everybody gets a role except me. You have a role. What? The man who tells the truth next. He left without touching Laurel's bag. Hannah replied the following morning. You can give her my email, not my phone number. A second message arrived. I don't want to meet alone the first time. I asked whether she wanted me there. She answered, yes. Mostly because I know you'll make it awkward in a predictable way. I took that as progress. Laurel was waiting outside Janine's townhouse when I brought the bag. She had changed clothes but not slept. Janine appeared briefly at the door behind her, gave me a look that contained 14 years of opinions, and went back inside. Hannah said you can email her, I told Laurel. She's willing to meet if I'm there. Does she think I'm dangerous? She thinks all of us are unpredictable. That's fair. I handed her the bag. Evan saw it. Her shoulders stiffened. He came to your house? Yes. Did he take it? He tried. I'm surprised you still have both arms. We negotiated. She almost smiled. I'm sorry I left it, she said. You were distracted. I wanted an excuse to see you again after I had time to decide whether I believed you. Do you? I believed the radio. That hurt, though it was reasonable. She held the bag against her leg. Do you believe me? About what? That I didn't know. Yes. Why? Because Evan never once claimed you did. She looked toward Janine's front window. The curtain moved. My sister thinks I should call a lawyer. Do you want to? I want 24 hours in which no one tells me what my next life should be. Take 48. Upset the market. This time, she did smile, briefly. Hannah chose a coffee shop across town, not Millie's. She arrived first and selected a table near the exit. Laurel arrived 7 minutes late and apologized before removing her coat. I sat between them until Hannah said, Could you move? It feels like you're supervising a treaty. I moved to the third chair at the side. For a while, nobody knew where to put their hands. Laurel finally said, I'm sorry. Hannah looked directly at her. For what? The question was not hostile. It was exact. For not knowing about you, Laurel said. You couldn't know what he didn't tell you. I should have. How? Laurel opened her mouth, then closed it. Hannah stirred tea she had not sweetened. I don't need you to feel guilty on his behalf. I don't know what I'm supposed to feel. Neither do I. The honesty gave them somewhere to stand. Laurel asked how many times Hannah had met Evan. Hannah described the first 3 planned meetings and the 4th when she went to the office building where he worked because he had stopped responding. Evan came downstairs, furious, and told her Laurel was ill and couldn't handle a shock. I wasn't ill, Laurel said. I know that now. What else did he tell you about me? That you hated surprises, that you were jealous, that your marriage was fragile because of things you'd been through. Laurel looked at her coffee. He made me sound cruel enough to avoid and wounded enough not to blame. That was the general shape. Hannah didn't enjoy saying it. Laurel noticed. I don't want your husband, Hannah said. I'm not here to take something from your marriage. I don't think you are. He thinks you do. Laurel's head lifted. What? Hannah reached for her phone, but left it face down. He contacted me last night. I felt Laurel go still beside me. What did he say? She asked. He said Martin had become confused and dragged you into something he didn't understand. He asked me to tell you that he and I only met once. Did he offer anything? An apology. A private meeting. He said we could start over if I helped calm things down. Laurel stared at the black screen of Hannah's phone. He came back, Hannah said quietly. Just like before. Only this time, he needed something. Laurel's expression did not collapse. It clarified. He didn't contact you because he was ready to be your father, she said. No, he contacted you because he wanted you to help him remain my husband. Hannah nodded. Across the table, 2 women Evan had kept apart for 6 years looked at each other without him between them. For the first time, neither one looked away. Hannah turned the phone over, but did not unlock it. I haven't answered him, she said. Don't answer on my account, Laurel replied. I wouldn't. The words were sharper than Hannah intended. She looked down at her tea. Laurel nodded. Good. I had expected anger to move between them like an electrical current. Instead, they were careful with each other, in ways neither had been careful with Evan. Each question was examined before it was handed across the table. What do you want from him? Laurel asked. Hannah's eyes narrowed slightly. I'm not asking so I can negotiate. I don't know. You wanted a relationship before. Before isn't now. Laurel wrapped both hands around her cup. I'm trying to understand whether you want him in your life. So am I. What happens if he apologizes? He has apologized. A real apology. Hannah gave a tired smile. Those aren't labeled when they arrive. Laurel absorbed that. I could feel myself preparing to say something wise and unnecessary. I drank my coffee instead. Hannah said, I wanted to know him when I was 19. I had an idea of him from what my mother didn't say. I thought maybe he had spent my whole life regretting things. Then he showed up and acted like that was true. Was it? Sometimes. That answer surprised Laurel. He could be kind, Hannah continued. He remembered things I told him. He asked about my work. When I was applying to veterinary programs, he found articles about schools and sent them to me. He didn't understand the difference between veterinary medicine and emergency animal care, but he tried. Her thumb moved along the edge of her cup. He wasn't pretending every minute. That would be easier. Laurel looked at me, and I knew we had both reached the same unpleasant recognition. No, she said. He usually means what he says while he's saying it. Hannah met her eyes. That's exactly it. A man at the next table dropped a spoon. All three of us flinched as if something important had broken. Laurel asked, "Does your mother know you contacted Martin?" "Yes." "How does she feel about it?" "She thinks I'm touching a stove to confirm it's hot." That sounds like something Susan would say. My mother uses fewer words. I asked, "Would Rachel speak to me?" Hannah's expression closed. "I'm not sure. I wouldn't ask her to explain herself." "You'd ask about Evan." "Yes." "She did her part. She raised me. She doesn't owe his family a deposition." "You're right. I didn't say no." "No, but you reminded me it's her choice." Hannah looked almost annoyed that I had listened. Laurel's phone vibrated. She checked the screen and put it away. "Janine," she said. "She's worried I've joined a cult. Tell her the coffee is too weak," I said. "Martin." "Sorry, no, you're not." "No." Laurel stood and put on her coat. "I need to go." Hannah's shoulders tensed. It was slight, but I saw the old expectation in it. Someone leaving the table before anything had been settled. Laurel saw it too. "I'm not disappearing," she said. "I need to go to work. You don't owe me an explanation. I know. I'm giving you one." Hannah nodded. Laurel took a card from her wallet and placed it on the table. It had the name of the interior design firm where she worked, along with her email and office number. "You don't have to contact me," she said. "That's not a test. But if Evan says I said something about you, you can ask me." Hannah looked at the card without touching it. "Same," she said. "You can email me. I will." Laurel hesitated. "I'm sorry he made you feel like knowing you would be an act against me." Hannah's face shifted. "I'm sorry he made you feel like I was a threat." Neither apology covered everything, which was why both mattered. After Laurel left, Hannah slid the card into her jacket pocket. "She's not what he said." "No, you're not either. I'm exactly as irritating as he said. Different category." We sat for another minute. "Do you want the radio back?" I asked. "Not yet." I turned it on. "Does it work?" "It drifts off station after it warms up." Evan said it did that because old radios get tired. Old radios do not get tired. Their components change value with heat. He said you'd say something like that. I smiled before I could stop myself. Hannah saw it and smiled too, then seemed guilty for having done so. "I can fix the drift," I said. "You don't have to." "I know." "That means you're going to." "Yes." She stood. "I'm still angry with you. I know. I'm not saying that to be cruel. I know. You say that a lot. I often know things after they become obvious." At the door she turned. "My mother may be willing to talk." "Let me ask her. Thank you. And don't call Laurel for a report on me. I wasn't planning to. You plan while standing very still. It's unsettling." She left. I drove home, feeling lighter than I had any right to feel. By the time I reached my street, my sister Joanne had called twice. Joanne was 71 and believed every phone call should begin with the medical condition most likely to explain it. "Are you having memory problems?" she asked when I answered. "No." Confusion? No. "Have you sent money to anybody you met online?" I pulled into my driveway and shut off the engine. "Who called you?" "Evan is concerned. Did he say I sent money?" "He said a young woman contacted you online, and you've become fixated. Did he say she's his daughter?" Silence. "He said she claims to be." "She is." "Martin, how can you know that?" "Because Evan met her 6 years ago, gave her a family keepsake, and hid her from his wife." Joanne drew in a breath. "He did not tell me that. I assumed. He said you and Susan were interfering in his marriage because you've never adjusted to retirement. Susan adjusted to my retirement immediately. She enjoys it more than I do." "This isn't funny." "No, it isn't." Joanne lowered her voice, though there was nobody in my truck to overhear her. "Is his marriage in trouble?" "Yes." Because of this woman? Her name is Hannah, and no, his marriage is in trouble because he lied. Have you met her? Twice. You let her into your house? The phrase was so similar to Evan's that I felt the road tilt beneath my parked truck. She is not a stray dog, Joanne. I'm asking whether you're being careful. You asked whether I'm confused. Evan sounded frightened. Evan is frightened. That doesn't mean he's lying. No, the lying means he's lying. She became quiet. Joanne had always loved Evan. After Susan and I divorced, she invited him for weekends and fed him casseroles large enough to qualify as construction materials. She had also spent most of her life believing family problems could be solved if nobody used the word blame before dessert. I don't want to be pulled into this, she said. Then don't be. He already pulled me in. Ask him why he called you before he called Hannah, she sighed. You're very certain. I'm certain about what I saw. I'm not asking you to take sides. What are you asking? That if he tells you I'm confused, call me. You did. Now you know. Should I call Susan? Only if you want to lose the rest of your afternoon. After we hung up, I sat in the truck until the interior went cold. Evan had not merely defended himself to Laurel. He had begun arranging the family around a version of me that could be dismissed. The strategy offended me. The fact that it had worked on Joanne frightened me. Susan called next. Your son just asked whether I'd noticed changes in your judgment. What did you say? I said your judgment has been questionable since 1979. Helpful. He called Carol, too. Carol was Susan's younger sister, a woman Evan spoke to twice a year. What did he tell her? That you've become emotionally attached to someone pretending to be his daughter. Apparently, Hannah found a lonely retired man and recognized an opportunity. I got out of the truck. What opportunity? He didn't specify. People prefer a threat with soft edges. They can shape it themselves. I'm not calling everyone. Good. I'll correct the lie if they call me. Also good. I'm not building a campaign against my own son. Susan was quiet for a beat. Are you trying to convince me or yourself? I unlocked the side door and entered the kitchen. I had coffee with Laurel and Hannah. You what? They wanted me there. How did it go? No blood. That's your standard for success? It worked for our marriage. She ignored that. Did Laurel believe her? Yes. Did Hannah believe Laurel? I think so. And you? What about me? Did either of them decide you're useful? The question irritated me because I had been asking it privately. This isn't about being useful. That's new for you. My phone signaled another call. Evan, I have to go. Do you? Yes. I switched lines. Evan did not say hello. Did you take them to meet each other? They arranged it. You gave Laurel Hannah's information, with Hannah's permission. You had no right to put them in a room together. I'm beginning to think you don't understand rights. He breathed heavily into the phone. Aunt Joanne called me crying. She wasn't crying when she called me. She's upset. Mom is attacking me. Laurel won't come home. And now Hannah thinks she can contact my wife whenever she wants. She can. You really don't care what happens to me. That isn't true. You met her twice. Yes, I'm your son. Yes. So choose. I looked through the kitchen doorway at Laurel's empty chair. Downstairs, the radio waited on my workbench. Two women had spent 6 years positioned as enemies without knowing each other's faces. You keep asking me to choose, I said, because you know what you did can't survive all of us in the same room. He hung up. A minute later, Hannah sent me a message. Mom will speak with you, she says once. She also says not to bring Evan. I read it twice, then set the phone down. For the first time since the diner, I understood that the next person waiting for the truth did not need anything repaired. She needed someone from our family to sit still and hear what had already happened. Tell her I'll come alone, I wrote. Hannah answered, she assumed you would. Rachel chose a bakery near the county hospital. I arrived early and bought coffee I did not want. At 9 exactly, a woman entered wearing dark jeans, a rust-colored coat, and the expression of someone who had already decided how long a conversation would last. I recognized her before she saw me. Her hair was shorter and streaked with gray, but she still had the same direct way of moving through a room. At 19, she had crossed my backyard carrying a hairdryer because Evan told her it would make charcoal burn faster. At 44, she crossed the bakery without looking left or right. Martin, Rachel. We did not shake hands. She sat across from me and removed her coat. She wore a pale blue hospital identification badge clipped to her sweater. "Do you want anything?" I asked. "No." "Coffee?" "I work in hospital billing. Coffee has done enough to me." I nodded. "You look like him," she said. I was going to say the same thing about Hannah. She looks like herself. "That's fair." Rachel folded her coat over the back of the chair. "Hannah said you listened to her." "Eventually." "That isn't an answer most people give. It's the accurate one. She also said you lie badly. I lied effectively. I just felt bad afterward." Rachel's mouth shifted, not quite a smile. "I'm not here to ask for forgiveness on Evan's behalf," I said. "Good, because I don't have any for you. I didn't expect you to. You're still doing it. Doing what?" Standing near his mess and trying to find the correct tool. I looked down at my coffee. "I came to hear you. I know. That's what Hannah asked me to trust." A server called out an order number. Someone near the window laughed too loudly. Rachel waited until the noise settled. "When I told Evan about Hannah, he said he needed a few days," she began. "That phrase appears to run in your family." I didn't defend myself. "He went away for his training program. Before he left, he said he had told you." My hand tightened around the paper cup. "Told me what? About the situation?" "He never told me. I know that now." "What did he say I'd done?" Rachel examined me carefully. "He said you told him he had one chance to make something of himself, and if he threw it away, he shouldn't come home." I felt heat rise behind my collar. "I never said that. I believe you. I told him he needed to take responsibility for his own mistakes. It was after he missed an apprenticeship interview. That sounds familiar. But I didn't know about you, or Hannah. I believe that too. The fact that she believed me did not feel like relief. It felt like being shown the exact shape of an injury after years of walking past it." "Evan said you thought I was trying to trap him," Rachel continued. "He said Susan wanted nothing to do with it. He made your family sound united. We weren't united about breakfast. I was 19. His story sounded like adults had made a decision. Why didn't you contact us?" "Because I had my own mother telling me to stop chasing people who had already answered. There was no accusation in it. That made the answer worse. Hannah said you didn't spend her life speaking badly about him. I didn't spend her life speaking about him much at all. I gave her his name. I answered what I could. I didn't want my anger to become her inheritance." "Were you angry?" Rachel looked at me as though the question was almost insulting. "Yes. Still. Sometimes. Mostly when he returns and reminds me." I set down my cup. "He contacted you when Hannah found him, before he met her. He called me furious. He wanted to know why I had given her his name." "What did you say?" "That it was hers. And he said Laurel couldn't know. He said she had been through enough and this would destroy her. The same thing he told Hannah. And you, apparently." Rachel leaned back. "I told him I would not help him lie. I also told him I wouldn't force Hannah to have a relationship with him. She was 19. It belonged to her by then. He met her anyway." "Yes." For a while, I thought he might surprise me. Her face changed when she said it. Not softer exactly. Older. Hannah would come home from those meetings, pretending not to be excited. She'd mention something small, like the kind of music he liked, or how he cut his sandwich. Then she'd spend 3 days waiting for him to write. I looked toward the counter. He did care about her. Rachel's eyes hardened. "Be careful. I'm not excusing him. Then don't hand out tenderness as a discount." I nodded. She continued more quietly. "He cared when caring felt good. He liked being forgiven by someone who had every reason not to forgive him. He liked seeing himself through her hope." Then she asked to meet his wife, and the feeling became expensive. That was the clearest description of Evan I had heard. "Why did he come back the second time?" I asked. "He and Laurel were having trouble. He called Hannah after nearly a year because he was lonely. You know that?" He told me, not directly. Evan never says the center of a sentence if he can build around it. I almost smiled. So did Rachel. Then she said, "When things improved at home, he disappeared again." I rubbed one thumb against the seam of the coffee cup. "I taught him that people who love him will wait." Rachel considered this. "Maybe. You don't agree?" "I think parents take too much credit when their children succeed, and too much blame when they become cruel. It keeps the story centered on the parent." I sat back. "You've been talking to Susan? I met her once." "That was enough." "When?" "Yesterday." "That surprised me." "Hannah introduced you?" "No." Susan found my office number online and called. I closed my eyes. She said she wouldn't contact me again if I told her to stop. And did you? No. I wanted to hear how many words she could fit into an apology. That number has not been discovered. Rachel smiled then. It transformed her face enough that I saw the young woman on my back steps. She apologized for not knowing, Rachel said. I told her the same thing I'm telling you. You didn't know because your son made sure you didn't. That doesn't erase everything we failed to notice. No, but don't make Hannah responsible for fixing your failure to notice it. I'm trying not to. Trying can be another request for patience. The server called another order. Rachel put on her coat. Are we done? I asked. You said you came to hear me. I did. Then we're done. I stood as she did. Can I ask one thing? You've asked several. Does Hannah want me in her life? Rachel's expression did not soften. She wants to believe she can choose you without being chosen against Evan. I don't understand. Yes, you do. I did. She picked up her purse. She isn't a better child for you to replace him with, Rachel said. And she isn't a punishment you can hold where he has to look at her. If you care about her, build something that does not require him to witness it. I will. Don't promise me. She left me standing beside the table. I drove home without turning on the radio. At the workbench, I removed the Philco's back panel and tested the tubes one by one. The oscillator tube weakened as it warmed, pulling the station off frequency. I had a replacement in an old cardboard box labeled mixed, maybe good. It was good. By late afternoon, the station held steady. Hannah arrived after work wearing the Navy clinic jacket and carrying a paper bag that smelled like fried onions. I brought food, she said. I have food. Crackers don't count. I have ham. You offered me that last time without knowing whether I ate meat. Do you? Yes, but that isn't the point. She unpacked 2 burgers and fries on the workbench. I moved the soldering iron and laid down newspaper. How did it go with my mother? She asked. She said once. That bad? She was fair. That means bad. It means fair. Hannah bit into a fry. What did she tell you? Things about Evan. Things about me. Did she tell you he said you knew? I looked at her. So you knew that. She told me after I contacted him. She thought I should understand that he had been using you as an excuse before I was born. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted to see whether you'd turn the whole thing into your betrayal. The answer embarrassed me. I nearly did. But your mother warned me. She likes issuing warnings. Hospital billing gives her a captive population. I turned on the Philco. The dial warmed. A singer's voice came through, clear and low. You fixed it, Hannah said. The oscillator tube was weak. I'll pretend I know what that means. It means the station won't drift. She listened for a moment. I'm still not taking it. I know. You can keep it here. I know. You could say thank you. Thank you. She ate another fry and looked around the basement. Were you always down here when Evan was growing up? Different basement, similar amount of dust. Did you like being a father? The question caught me with a wrench in my hand. Yes. Were you good at it? Sometimes. That's diplomatic. I was good at teaching him things I understood. Tools, engines, how to stay calm when a machine failed. I was less useful when the problem spoke. Did you know he was scared to tell you about me? No. Would you have thrown him out? No. Would you have made him be involved? I would have tried. What does that mean? It means I probably would have confused pressure with guidance and money with support. I might have made the situation louder without making myself available. She studied me. You don't make yourself sound very heroic. I've had criticism. From Susan, among others. Hannah brushed salt from the newspaper. I emailed Laurel. I kept my face still, which made her roll her eyes. You can ask. What did you say? I told her Evan contacted me. She asked me to forward his message, and I said no. Why? Because I'm not handing her ammunition. If they're ending their marriage, they can do it without using me as the object they fight over. That was wise. It was angry. Those can coexist. She asked if she could meet me again. What did you say? Maybe. I nodded. Hannah looked toward the radio. Evan called my mother today. What did he want? For her to tell me you're manipulating me. I put down the wrench. What did Rachel say? That if he ever used her number to discuss me again, she'd hang up before he finished the first sentence. That sounds efficient. He also told her Laurel was leaving because of you. That part is familiar. Hannah's phone buzzed. She read the screen. Speak of the disaster. Evan? She nodded. What does he want? He says he's coming here. I stood. Did you tell him you were here? No. A second message arrived. Hannah read it, then looked toward the ceiling as headlights swept across the narrow basement windows. He says you asked him to come. I didn't. A car door slammed in the driveway. Hannah folded the burger wrapper and placed it neatly in the bag. You know, she said, for someone who thinks everyone is ruining his life, he spends a lot of time arriving uninvited in theirs. Above us, the side door opened. Evan called my name. Then he started down the basement stairs. Evan stopped halfway down the stairs. His gaze moved from me to Hannah, then to the open food wrappers on the workbench. For 1 second, none of us spoke. The radio played quietly behind me, holding its station. So, this is what you're doing now, he said. Hannah leaned against the bench. Eating a hamburger? You know what I mean. I usually don't. He came down the remaining steps. He still wore his office clothes, though he had removed his tie. His eyes settled on the Philco. You fixed it. The oscillator tube was weak, I said. I wasn't asking you. Hannah folded her arms. Yes, he fixed it. Evan looked at her properly then. The anger in his face faltered. 6 years had changed both of them, but recognition was immediate. Your hair's shorter, he said. Hannah touched it without meaning to. Yours is grayer. Occupational hazard. Of what? Life, apparently. It was almost normal. That was the danger with Evan. He could locate the ordinary part of a disaster and stand in it as though the rest of the room were not burning. Hannah gestured toward the stairs. You told me Martin asked you to come. He called earlier. I did not, I said. Evan glanced at me. You said we needed to talk. 2 days ago. Fine. I was already coming over. I saw your car. You remember my car? It still has the same dent. Hannah looked toward the narrow window, where the roof of her blue car was visible beneath the driveway light. You could have kept driving, she said. I've done enough of that, according to everyone. The self-pity in his voice closed whatever small opening recognition had made. Why did you call my mother? Hannah asked. Because she knows how quickly you get pulled into things. Pulled into my own family? This isn't a family. Dad met you a week ago. 8 days, I said. Both of them looked at me. That wasn't useful, I admitted. Evan walked closer to the workbench. Hannah, I'm trying to stop this from becoming uglier than it already is. You mean visible. I mean ugly. Laurel left the house. My mother is calling people. Dad is telling relatives I abandoned a daughter without knowing whether you're even mine. The room went still. Hannah's voice changed. You told me I was. I said it seemed likely. You said you remembered the night my mother got pregnant. Hannah, you said you had counted backward 100 times. I was trying to give you what you needed. She stared at him. Was any of it true? Yes. Which part? I don't remember every sentence from 6 years ago. I do. He looked toward me as if I had arranged the question. Don't, Hannah said. He isn't doing this to you. I'm standing here. Evan turned back. I believed you were my daughter, he said. Believed? I believe it. I'm saying we never did anything official. The word hung there. Hannah's face became unreadable. You didn't need anything official when you wanted me to forgive you. I wanted to know you. Then why did you stop? You pushed too fast. I asked to meet your wife. You showed up at my office. After 4 months without an answer. I had a life. So did I. I was trying to protect people. Name one person you protected. He opened his mouth. Nothing came. I moved the soldering iron farther from the edge of the bench, not because it was hot, but because my hands needed something to do. Evan saw the gesture. This is unbelievable, he said. You're just standing there letting her attack me. She's asking questions. She has always asked questions like accusations. Hannah laughed in disbelief. I met you 4 times. Exactly. You decided what I owed you before you knew anything about me. You were my father before I knew anything about you. He flinched. For a moment, I thought he might finally let the word remain between them. Instead, he turned toward the radio. I gave you that. Yes. Why bring it back? Because I was done carrying your promise. I never said it was a promise. You said it was one thing from the family before I met everybody. His face reddened. I was trying to be kind. And I'm telling you what your kindness did. You wanted something that wasn't possible. You made it feel possible. Because you were 19 and hurting. So you lied to make me feel better? I said things I hoped could be true. Hannah's eyes filled. She did not look away from him. That's a lie with good posture. I recognized the phrase as mine, altered from the one about the necktie. Under different circumstances, I might have felt proud. Evan rubbed the back of his neck. What do you want me to say? The truth. About what? Why you came back after the first time you disappeared. He glanced at me. Ask her, Hannah said. She already knows. Things with Laurel were difficult, he said. So you called me. Yes? Because you missed me? He hesitated. That was the answer. Hannah nodded slowly. You didn't miss me. You missed being loved by someone who didn't know you well enough to be angry yet. That's not fair. My mother said it better. I cared about you. You keep saying that, like caring is the same as staying. Evan's phone vibrated. He took it out, read the screen, and turned it face down on the bench. Laurel? I asked. He ignored me. Hannah said, What do you want from me now? I want you to stop contacting my wife. She contacted me. Then don't answer. No. His head lifted. She has a right to ask what happened, Hannah said. And I have a right to answer. You're helping her destroy our marriage. I didn't make promises to your wife. You did. You think she wants to know you? She wants evidence. Right now you're useful to her. The cruelty of the sentence was not entirely invented. It was a fear Hannah had already expressed. She went pale. I stepped forward. That's enough. No, apparently everyone gets to speak tonight. Evan pointed toward Hannah. You wanted a family. Congratulations. You got my father, my mother, and my wife. What part of my life are you planning to take next? Hannah pushed away from the workbench. I'm leaving. You don't have to, I said. Yes, I do. She grabbed her jacket. Evan moved aside to let her pass, but she stopped in front of him. I didn't contact Martin to take your family, she said. I contacted him because I wanted to know whether lying was something only you did. His face tightened. What did you decide? She looked at me, then back at him. That it might be something your family does, but you're the one who keeps asking them to. She went upstairs. I followed her to the driveway. The cold had sharpened, and her breath showed as she unlocked her car. Hannah, don't apologize for him. I wasn't going to. Don't explain him either. I wasn't going to do that. She opened the driver's door but didn't get in. He remembered my hair, she said. I know. That's the worst part. I waited. He looked happy to see me for 1 second. I saw it, and I was happy too. Her voice broke. She turned away. That doesn't make you foolish. It makes me tired. Yes. She wiped beneath one eye with the heel of her hand. I don't want the radio. You don't have to decide tonight. He'll use it as proof that he tried. I won't let him take it. That isn't what I mean. I know. She looked toward the house. Don't tell Laurel what he said about her using me. I won't. I'll tell her myself if I decide to. All right, and don't call my mother. All right. You're agreeing very quickly. I'm learning. That sounds exhausting at your age. It is. She got into her car. Before closing the door, she said, I still want the station to hold. It will. She drove away. When I returned to the basement, Evan sat on the stool with both hands over his face. You had no reason to say that to her, I said. She came here to turn you against me. She brought hamburgers. You think jokes make you calm. Sometimes they just make you absent. That landed because it was true. I stood across from him. Laurel asked me to leave the house, he said. When? Tonight? Before you came here? He nodded. What did she say? That she needs space. That I've made her doubt her own memory. She said, if I show up at Janine's, she'll never forgive me. So you came here. Where else am I supposed to go? A hotel. With what money? You have a job. We've been paying for 2 people's lives with 1 income for years. I looked at him. Laurel works. Her business barely covers her expenses some months. That isn't what you've told me, because it's none of your business. He seemed to hear himself too late. I can stay at a hotel, he said. Forget it. You can stay here tonight. His eyes lifted. One night, I said. Tomorrow, you make arrangements. You do not contact Hannah from this house. You do not ask me to speak to Laurel. You do not call relatives and say I'm confused. I didn't say confused. You asked Joanne about my memory. I was worried. No, you were preparing a reason nobody should believe me. He stood. You really think the worst of me now. I think what you do next still matters. He looked toward the radio. Can I have it back? No. His mouth twisted. You're choosing her. I'm keeping a promise that isn't mine to return. He went upstairs. I turned off the radio and followed. Evan stood in the kitchen beside Laurel's overnight bag. I guess she won't need this tonight, he said. He reached toward it, then stopped himself. I made up the guest room while he showered. The sheets smelled faintly of the cedar chest. I put a glass of water beside the bed, the way I used to when he stayed with me after the divorce. He emerged wearing an old t-shirt he kept in my laundry room. Gray at the temples, tired around the eyes. He looked both 44 and 14. Thanks, Dad, he said. You're welcome. At 2 a.m, I woke to his voice in the hallway. He was speaking softly on the phone. No, he said. I didn't know she'd be here. He set the whole thing up. I opened my bedroom door. Evan turned. The phone remained against his ear. Who are you talking to? I asked. He ended the call. Joanne. I looked at the guest room I had prepared for him, then at my son standing barefoot in the dark, already rebuilding the lie. One night is over, I said. Evan stared at me. You're throwing me out at 2 a.m? I'm asking you to leave because you used my house to make another call about me. I told Joanne what happened. You told her I arranged for Hannah to ambush you. That's what it felt like. Feelings aren't facts. Oh, now you like that line. I went to the hall closet and took out his coat. He did not accept it. Where am I supposed to go? You mentioned a hotel. I was angry. So was I when I offered you a bed. That's different. It always is. His face hardened. You wanted to hear me on that call. I was asleep. You came out quickly. You were standing outside my bedroom saying I set you up. I was whispering. That is not a defense. He took the coat. For a second, we stood close enough that I could smell my soap on him from the shower. I remember drying his hair with a towel when he was small, rubbing until he shouted and laughed and tried to escape. Memory is undisciplined. It arrives on behalf of people who do not deserve help in the moment. Evan went into the guest room and changed. I waited in the kitchen. He returned with his office clothes folded under one arm. You don't have a bag? I asked. I didn't plan on being evicted. I found an old gym bag in the laundry room. The zipper stuck halfway and I worked it loose with a bar of soap. You can keep it, I said. That's generous. Don't make everything uglier. He shoved his clothes into the bag. What did Joanne say? I asked. That she was worried about both of us. Did you correct the part about my memory? She asked. Whether you knew Hannah would be here. I said I didn't know. You said I set it up. Because you put them together. Not tonight. Does the date matter? Yes, dates, locations, words. Those are the things you keep calling context after you move them. He zipped the bag. You know what's funny? You spent my whole life telling me, family doesn't abandon family. I'm not abandoning you. You're putting me on the street. You have a car, a job, a phone, and enough money for a room. You are not on the street. You don't know how much money I have. Then tell me. He looked away. There it was again, an opening shaped like another problem. I could have asked about his accounts, his bills, whether Laurel managed the household money. Within minutes, we might have been solving that instead. No, I said. No what? I'm not changing subjects. His mouth twisted. You think you figured me out. I think I'm beginning to recognize when you hand me a bucket so I won't ask why the house is flooding. That sounds like Susan. She has occasional value. He picked up the gym bag. At the door, he stopped. If I leave now, don't call tomorrow, pretending you care where I ended up. I care where you end up. Then let me stay. No. His eyes filled with anger or grief. With Evan, the two had always shared a wall. He left. I watched from the window as he sat in his car. 10 minutes passed before the headlights came on. I nearly went outside twice. The second time, I had my hand on the doorknob. Then I remembered Hannah standing in the basement, saying he looked happy to see her. I let him drive away. The guest room smelled like damp towels and the cedar chest. The glass of water sat untouched beside the bed. I stripped the sheets, though he had barely used them, then stopped halfway and sat on the mattress. At 68, I had finally refused to rescue my son. It did not feel like strength. It felt like leaving a door closed while someone knocked from the other side. Joanne called before breakfast. I'm sorry, she said. For what? For calling you confused. You asked if I was confused. I was thinking it. That counts less. She sighed. Evan told me you invited him over and had Hannah waiting. He saw her car when he arrived. I know. He called back. He corrected himself. Not exactly. He said you might not have planned the timing, but you created the situation. That sounds like him. He was crying, Martin. I looked at the half-stripped guest bed. I know he's hurting. Can you let him stay with you? I did. What happened? He used my hallway to call you and lie. He didn't lie about everything. That is becoming the family slogan. Joanne was quiet. I hate this, she said. So do I. I don't want to lose him. Neither do I. Then what are we doing? I rubbed my forehead. We're letting him discover that being loved is not the same as being believed. Joanne cried then, softly. I waited until she stopped apologizing for it. Susan came over carrying clean sheets I had not requested. Joanne called me, she said. Everyone calls you. People sense leadership. People sense availability. She took the sheets to the guest room, saw the bare mattress, and understood. You made him leave? Yes. Are you all right? No. She put the sheets down. I sat on the cedar chest. Susan leaned against the dresser. He said I abandoned him, I told her. He said the same thing to me after the divorce. I let him. You didn't let him. He was angry. I let him believe you were the one who wanted out. Her expression changed. We agreed not to tell him everything. We agreed not to tell him about the fights. I could have told him I stopped coming home before I moved out. You were working, I was hiding at work. Yes. I looked at her. Susan folded her arms. You want me to disagree? I wanted you to be the unhappy one. If you were impossible to satisfy, I didn't have to admit I had been absent for years. You were absent, and you were angry. I was magnificent at it. I laughed despite myself. She sat beside me. We taught him some bad lessons, she said. I taught him that anger could make a room surrender. You taught him that silence could do the same thing more politely. He learned both. Yes. So, how much of this belongs to us? The first few tools, perhaps. Not what he built with them. I studied my hands. I saw him sitting in the car last night. And you didn't go out? No. Good. It didn't feel good. Good decisions are often badly marketed. She bumped her shoulder against mine. Hannah messaged me, she said. What? Don't look offended. She asked whether I really called Rachel. You did. I apologized. You ambushed her at work. I called during lunch. That is not a distinction. Susan smiled. Hannah said she needs a few days away from all of us. Did she say that to you or me? To me. Why not me? Because she knew I would tell you. That is a poor definition of space. It may be more space than our family has ever offered. I did not contact Hannah. That afternoon, I returned the radio to the shelf above my workbench. I left it unplugged. Every time I went downstairs, I noticed the empty outlet beneath it. Laurel called 2 evenings later. Did Evan stay with you? She asked, for part of one night. What happened? He called Joanne and said I arranged the meeting with Hannah. He told me you threw him out because Susan demanded it. Susan wasn't here, I assumed. Have you spoken to him? Too much. Her voice sounded steadier than it had at my house. He's at a hotel near the airport, she said. He keeps asking to come home so we can discuss this like adults. You are adults. You know what he means. Yes. She hesitated. Hannah told me what happened in your basement. She asked me not to tell you what Evan said. She told me herself. Then I kept one promise this week. She also said you made him leave. That was later. Thank you. I didn't do it for you. I know. There was no offense in her answer. I told Evan I'll meet with him Sunday, she said. Not at the house. I said I would listen if he told me everything without blaming you, Hannah, Rachel, or me. Will he? He says he will. What happens after? I don't know. I'm not deciding 14 years in one conversation. That sounds sensible. It feels cowardly. No. Cowardly is deciding in advance and calling the conversation a chance. She was quiet. Did Susan say that? She asked. No. Good. I'm starting to resent how often she's right. Marriage does that. You would know. Before hanging up, Laurel asked me not to speak to Evan on her behalf. I won't, and don't tell him what I'm feeling. I don't know what you're feeling, neither does he. I'd like to keep one thing equal. After the call, I went downstairs and turned on the radio. The station came in immediately. No drift. My phone buzzed on the bench. It was a picture from Hannah. A paper cup beside a vending machine, with a badly drawn smiley face in the foam. Clinic coffee, she wrote. Tastes like consequences. I replied, Farm report is on. Soybeans remain uncertain, she sent back. Keep me updated. It was the first conversation we had that did not contain Evan's name. The next few days settled into an uneasy quiet. Hannah sent a photograph of a three-legged bulldog wearing a yellow sweater. I sent her a picture of the repaired cabinet door, and she said it looked exactly like a cabinet door. Laurel did not call. Susan called enough for everyone. Evan stayed silent. On Saturday evening, I was sweeping sawdust beneath the workbench when his car pulled into my driveway. He came down the basement stairs without calling my name this time. He had shaved and put on a clean shirt. He looked composed, which worried me more than anger. Laurel agreed to meet tomorrow, he said. She told me. His eyes narrowed. You've been talking to her. She called 2 days ago. What did she say? That I shouldn't tell you what she said. He glanced at the radio. Hannah still doesn't want it? That is none of your business. She sent me a message. I set the broom against the wall. What did she say? That she doesn't want contact right now. Then respect it. I am. He walked to the bench and placed both hands on its edge. I need one thing from you before I meet Laurel. No. You don't even know what it is. I know the shape. Dad, please. The words still had power, less than before, but not none. He looked at the stool, then at me. I need you to tell Laurel you misunderstood how often I saw Hannah, he said. Not lie. Just admit there may have been confusion. There wasn't. She thinks I carried on some secret father-daughter life while she was grieving. You met Hannah, left her, returned when you were lonely, and left again. That is Hannah's version. It is also yours when you forget to adjust it. He closed his eyes briefly. If Laurel believes I deliberately kept a daughter from her during treatment, she'll never come back. I looked at my son across the old burned workbench. So that's why you came. I came because tomorrow decides my marriage. No, I said, 6 years decided it. Tomorrow is when you find out what the decision cost. Evan stared down at the workbench. You make everything sound final. Some things become final, while we're calling them temporary. I was trying to find a way through. You were trying to find a version where nobody could blame you. Wouldn't you? I did, for years. He looked up. I let you believe your mother ended our marriage because she was angry and impossible to satisfy. I let myself believe it too. I worked late because elevators made sense and your mother didn't. Then I came home and acted wounded because she was furious I hadn't been there. So, you understand. I understand the temptation. That's convenient. You get to admit your mistakes 20 years later and lecture me while mine are happening. My mistakes didn't wait 20 years to hurt people. Mom is fine. That isn't the standard. He moved away from the bench and paced toward the stairs, then back. Laurel said she'd listen if I didn't blame anyone, he said. That's impossible. Context is not blame. Then give context. I was 19 when Hannah was born. You were 38 when she contacted you. I didn't know how to tell Laurel. Start there. And say what? Hey, while you were crying because we couldn't have a family, here's an adult daughter I abandoned? The sentence echoed in the basement. Evan looked as if he wished he could pull it back. That is what happened, I said. You think I don't know that? I think you've spent 6 years constructing sentences, so you wouldn't have to hear it aloud. He turned toward the shelf. The radio's dial glowed above us. When Hannah first contacted me, I thought it might be a good thing, he said. For whom? All of us. What changed? Nothing changed. Something did. He rubbed the back of his neck. Laurel and I were already falling apart. Every room in the house felt like grief. We couldn't talk about the future without talking about what we didn't have. Then Hannah appeared and expected me to know how to be someone's father. She asked for coffee. That first time. What did you expect from her? Gratitude for arriving? No. Yes. His face hardened. You weren't there. I'm here now. That's not the same. No, it is much easier for me now. I can see what you should have done because I didn't have to do it. The anger left him slightly. I continued, but easier doesn't mean wrong. He sat on the stool. I liked her, he said. I know. She was funny. She was studying all the time, working terrible hours. She acted like she didn't care whether I answered, but if I waited more than an hour, she'd send some sarcastic message. That sounds familiar. She wanted to know little things. What food I hated, whether I snored, if I had allergies. I thought she'd want explanations, but mostly she wanted details. She was building a person. He nodded. I told her about you, the radio, working in the garage. I made our family sound, he searched for the word, solid. We weren't. I know. Why give her the Philco? Because she asked whether there was anything from when I was young that I still had. I thought of the radio. I brought it down here one afternoon while you were out. You repaired it here? Yes. I pictured him alone at my bench, matching veneer and replacing wire, while Laurel believed he was visiting his father. Even the Kind Act had required my house to become an alibi. I was going to tell Laurel, he said. When? After Hannah and I knew each other better. What changed? He looked at the burn in the workbench, the crescent he had made at 16. Hannah asked to meet her. You've said that. You don't understand what she sounded like. Excited. She had already decided Laurel would accept her. Would she have? He didn't answer. Evan, yes. The word came out quietly. That was the center of it. You knew Laurel would want to know her, I said. She would have thrown herself into it. She would have invited Hannah for dinner, remembered her birthday, asked about holidays. She would have tried to make up for every year I missed. Would that have been terrible for me? Finally, the truth stood without context around it. Evan pressed his palms against his eyes. Every time Laurel looked at Hannah, she would see what I did. Every time they got along, I'd be the person who kept them apart. And Hannah would tell her everything, so you chose to keep them apart longer. I panicked. For 6 years? I didn't wake up every morning and decide again. That is how hiding works. You don't have to decide every morning because yesterday's lie is already waiting. He dropped his hands. I loved my wife. You still do. Yes. And you hurt Hannah to keep Laurel from seeing you clearly. I thought I could handle it later. You returned to Hannah when the marriage got worse. His eyes moved toward me. Rachel told you. Yes. She hates me. She sees you. That's worse? Sometimes. He stood again. You want me to go into that meeting tomorrow and hand Laurel every reason to leave. I want you to stop asking everyone else to carry the reasons. What if she never comes back? I don't know. Would that satisfy Hannah? This is not revenge for Hannah. It feels like it. Because consequences feel personal when they arrive. He looked at the radio. I could tell Laurel Hannah exaggerated. Not that she lied, just that I met her fewer times, that we weren't close. You corrected me when I said 3 meetings. That doesn't mean you remembered the unplanned one. You remembered her car. You remembered her hair. He became still. You cared about her, I said. Then you used the fact that you cared only sometimes as a reason it shouldn't count. I can't be what she wants. You don't know what she wants now. I know she wants me punished. She asked me not to tell Laurel what you said in this basement. That surprised him. Why? Because she refused to be ammunition. He sat again, slowly. I turned off the soldering lamp. The radio's dial remained the only warm light on the bench. I don't want you to lose your marriage, I said. Then help me. I cannot help preserve it by erasing another person. I'm not asking you to erase her. You're asking me to make her smaller, fewer meetings, less meaning, less deliberate. I'm asking you to leave room for Laurel to forgive me. That room belongs to Laurel. His eyes shone. I don't know how to tell the truth without sounding like a monster. Tell it without asking her to decide you aren't one. His face twisted. That's easy for you to say. No, it isn't. I pulled the second stool from beneath the bench and sat across from him. When I was throwing you out last night, part of me wanted you to suffer. I need to own that. I was angry that you used me. I was ashamed Hannah saw me lie. I wanted one clean act that proved I was different. Evan watched me. But you were still lying from my hallway, I said. My bad reasons do not make the boundary wrong. So now what? You meet Laurel. You tell her when Hannah contacted you, how many times you met, what you promised, why you disappeared, and why you returned. You answer whatever she asks. And if she walks away, you let her. He shook his head. I can't. You may have to. We sat in the low light with the radio murmuring between us. After a while, Evan said, Did Hannah ever ask about me after the basement? Not directly. What does that mean? She sent me a picture of bad coffee and a bulldog. He almost smiled. She likes ugly dogs. He was wearing a sweater. That makes it worse. The shared laugh lasted less than a second, but it was real. Evan looked at the radio again. Does it still drift? No. You replaced the oscillator? Yes. I didn't have the right tube when I fixed it. I know. He nodded as though one small uncertainty had been resolved. At the stairs, he stopped. Do you still love me? Yes. Do you like me? The question took more courage than anything else he had asked. Not very much tonight. He absorbed it. Okay. But I want to know what you do tomorrow. He left without asking me to speak to Laurel again. I did not sleep well. By Sunday morning, I had cleaned the kitchen, reorganized the basement screws by size, and put them back into their original mixed containers because the new system made me uncomfortable. Susan arrived at 11 with bagels. You look terrible, she said. Evan meets Laurel at 1. I know. How? Laurel called me. Why? She wanted to know whether Evan ever told us about Hannah. What did you say? The truth. Then I shut up so completely she asked whether the call had dropped. That must have injured you. I'm recovering. We ate at the kitchen table. At 12:30, I checked my phone. Susan slapped my hand. Stop. I was checking the time. There's a clock behind you. I distrust it. At 1:15, Hannah sent another photograph of the bulldog. He now wore a plastic cone around his neck and looked offended by geometry. I replied with a picture of Susan holding half a bagel. Hannah wrote, similar expression. Susan demanded to know what she had said. I declined. At 2, Laurel and Evan were still meeting. At 3, Susan washed dishes that were already clean. At 3:40, my phone rang. Evan, I answered. Where are you? I asked. In my car. How did it go? She wants a separation. His voice was flat. Did you tell her everything? I told her enough. That wasn't the agreement. I told her about Hannah. I told her when we met. Did you tell her why you disappeared? Silence. Evan, I couldn't say it the way you did. You needed to say it your way. She figured it out. What did she say? She asked whether I thought she would have loved Hannah. And I said yes. I closed my eyes. She asked whether that was why I hid her. I couldn't lie. Susan watched me from across the kitchen. What happened then? I asked. She cried, not loudly. She just sat there looking at me like I was somebody she had agreed to meet. I'm sorry. Are you? Yes. She said she doesn't know whether there's anything left to save because every memory now has another version underneath it. I had no answer. She won't let me come home, he said. Where will you go? The hotel. Do you need help paying for it? The offer escaped before I could examine it. Evan gave a broken laugh. There you are. He ended the call. Susan looked at me. What? He was right, I said. About what? I heard he was hurting and reached for my wallet. Did he take the money? No. Then perhaps both of you were learning. My phone rang again. This time it was Laurel. I answered, but no one spoke at first. Then she said, He told me. I know. I asked him if he hid Hannah because he knew I would love her. What did he say? Yes. The word cracked between us. Laurel breathed in unsteadily. I thought hearing the truth would make something clear, she said. It only made the lie bigger. I waited. I'm not going back to the house tonight, she said, but I need to get some things. Will you come with me? The request surprised me. Why me? Because if Evan arrives, you're the only person he might listen to. I thought of every time I had mistaken being needed for being right. If you want company, I'll come, I said. But I won't manage Evan for you. I'm not asking you to. All right, she gave me a time. After we hung up, Susan gathered the bagel wrappers. You're going? She asked. Yes, be careful. Of Evan? Of making yourself the hinge on their door. At 6, I parked across from the blue-shuttered house. Laurel's car arrived behind mine. The porch light was already on. Evan's car sat in the driveway. Laurel turned off her engine but did not open the door. I walked back to her car. She lowered the window. He said he was going to the hotel, she said. He may have stopped for something. The porch light wasn't on when I left. You don't have to go inside. It's my house. Yes. She looked past me at Evan's car. Will you come in? I'll come in. If he asks you to explain anything, I won't. That wasn't what I was going to say. What were you going to say? Don't answer before I do. I nodded. She got out and walked toward the house carrying an empty canvas tote. Her overnight bag had returned to Janine's. This one was for whatever she had decided she could not leave behind. The front door was unlocked. Evan stood in the dining room. He had set the table for 2. There were cloth napkins, the blue plates Laurel used when company came, and a bottle of wine breathing in a glass pitcher. A pan of baked pasta sat in the center of the table, its cheese cooling into a pale skin. Laurel stopped in the doorway. "What are you doing? I thought we could talk here. I told you I was coming to get clothes. I know. I told you not to be here. I know that too." His eyes moved to me, "And you brought him." "She asked me to come," I said. "I wasn't asking you." Laurel took off her coat but kept it over one arm. "You need to leave. Can we eat first?" "No." I made the spinach one. She looked at the table. Something moved across her face, grief so ordinary it almost looked like hunger. "For 14 years, she said, "you have cooked exactly one thing, two if you count chili. I don't." His mouth trembled. "Laurel, please. We can't end a marriage in a coffee shop. We're not ending it tonight." Hope rose too quickly in him. "I'm separating from you," she continued. "That means I don't know what happens later. It does not mean you get to move back in while I figure it out. This is my house, too." "Yes. And I asked you for 1 week somewhere else." He glanced at me again. "Did he tell you to say that?" "No." "Hannah? No. Susan?" Laurel dropped the empty tote on a chair. "This is why I can't breathe around you. Every sentence I say has to belong to someone else before you'll hear it. I'm trying to understand what changed. I learned you had a daughter. I told you everything today. You told me after your father refused to lie for you. That doesn't make it untrue. No, it makes it late." Evan looked at me. "Say something." Laurel's eyes also moved to me. I remembered her instruction outside. I waited. She said, "I don't know whether I can ever trust a memory with you in it. I think of the night we decided to stop treatment, and now I know Hannah's name was already on your phone. I think of you leaving to help Martin, and now I don't know where you went. I think of every time I was impatient with your father because I believed he was taking you away from me. I never said he was taking me away. You said he needed you. He did sometimes, not the times you used him." Evan gripped the back of a dining chair. "I was ashamed. I know. I thought if I waited there would be a better time. I know. I loved you." Her face tightened. "I know that too. That's what makes this harder, not easier." He looked unsteady then. I took one step forward before stopping myself. Evan noticed. "You think this is what I deserve," he said to me. "No. You said consequences. I said they feel personal. You brought them into the same room. You told the family. You threw me out. I corrected what you said about me. I told Laurel when she asked. I refused to help you reduce Hannah into a misunderstanding. You got what you wanted. What do you think I wanted? To be right about me." The accusation had enough truth to hurt. "There were moments I wanted that," I said. "I was angry. I liked feeling like the honest man after years of helping you lie." Laurel watched me. "But I did not want this," I continued. "I wanted you to tell the truth before it cost this much. You wouldn't." Evan's face folded for a second, then hardened again. "Laurel would have forgiven me if you had stayed out of it." "No," Laurel said. "I would have stayed ignorant. That is not forgiveness." He turned toward her. "What about Hannah? You've seen her twice, and now she's emailing you. You always wanted a daughter. Is that what this is?" Laurel went very still. "Hannah is not a vacancy in my life. That isn't what I meant. It is exactly what you meant. You reduced her to something I wanted, just like you reduced Martin to something I resented. You keep turning people into needs because needs don't compare stories." Evan looked toward the table he had set. The pasta gave a soft, settling sound in the pan. "I don't know how to fix this," he said. "You don't fix it tonight. What do I do, though? You leave. You give me the space I asked for. You stop calling relatives about your father. You do not contact Hannah unless she says you may. And you stop asking the people you hurt to tell you how not to be the person who hurt them." His eyes filled. "And after that? I don't know. It was the only honest promise available." Evan picked up his coat from the chair. At the door, he looked at me. "Are you staying? If Laurel wants me to." He waited for me to offer something more. A room, money, a sentence that softened what had happened. "I love you," I said. "I will speak to you when you can talk without asking me to change the facts." His jaw tightened. "You always have conditions now." "No, I always had them. I just used to enforce yours." He left. The front door closed without slamming. Laurel stood in the dining room until the sound of his car disappeared. Then she sat at the table and stared at the 2 plates. "I hate baked pasta," she said. "I thought you liked it." "He likes it. I like the crispy part around the edge. That's the only good part." She laughed once and covered her mouth. The laugh turned into a sob. I went into the kitchen and found containers. We divided the pasta without speaking. Laurel scraped every crisp edge into one container and left the soft center for Evan, though he was no longer there. When we finished, she said, "You can go." "Are you sure?" "No, but I need to be alone in my own house." I put on my coat. At the door, she stopped me. "I don't know whether I'm leaving him. You don't have to tell me. I don't want Hannah to think I stayed because she didn't matter. Then tell her that when you're ready. Don't make your marriage her verdict." Laurel nodded. That sounded like Rachel. "I've had a difficult week." She closed the door behind me. Evan did not call for 19 days. He moved from the airport hotel into a furnished apartment across town. Joanne told me, before remembering she had promised not to carry messages. Susan corrected anyone who called Hannah a stranger, but did not organize a family tribunal, which for Susan counted as restraint. When Carol asked whether my judgment had improved, I told her it had become less convenient. That ended the conversation. Laurel remained in the blue-shuttered house. She and Evan met several times. Sometimes she sounded hopeful afterward. Sometimes she called Susan and used language that made Susan put the phone on speaker, only after checking I was not in the room. Separation did not turn either of them into a clean new person. Laurel still wanted him to comfort her about the pain he had caused. Evan still mistook being invited to speak for being invited home, but he stopped using my name. Hannah kept the distance she asked for. Our messages stayed small. A broken cabinet hinge at her clinic. A photograph of a sandwich Leah had made with so much lettuce it could barely close. Soybean prices, which remained uncertain. When she finally came to the house again, she brought Leah. Leah was 30, broad-shouldered, and suspicious of me in an organized way. She asked where I kept the fire extinguisher before agreeing to eat in my kitchen. Hannah said, "You repair everything," she told me. Hannah exaggerates. "I said he tries," Hannah replied. After dinner, Leah went upstairs to call Rachel. Hannah and I went to the basement. The Philco sat on the shelf, unplugged. "You stopped listening," she said. "I didn't know whether it bothered you. It bothers me when Evan turns it into proof he loved me. That's fair. It also bothers me that he gave me the best object I own. Both can be true." She lifted the radio down and placed it on the bench. "Can we make the dial less yellow? The color is original. That wasn't my question." "Yes." "But we're not going to." She smiled. We removed the back panel to clean out the dust. I showed her how to ease a tube from its socket without twisting. She was too forceful at first, then too careful. "You can hold it," I said. "It isn't an egg. I work with injured animals. They bite when you say things like that." The phone in my pocket rang. Evan. Hannah saw the name. Her hands stopped. "I can ignore it," I said. "No. Answer." I stepped toward the stairs, but she shook her head. "You don't have to leave," I answered. "Hi, Dad." "Hello." His voice sounded different, not transformed, tired, perhaps more aware of how he entered a sentence. "Is this a bad time? I'm working on the radio with Hannah." Silence. "Okay," he said. "You can call later." "No. I just wanted to ask something." I waited. I wrote her a message. I haven't sent it. Hannah looked down at the open radio. "What does it say?" I asked. "That I'm sorry, that I know I've said that before." I asked whether she would consider meeting me, and I said I would accept it if the answer was no. "That sounds like something you should send to her. I wanted you to tell her I mean it, no." The old silence opened between us. Then Evan said, "Right. If you send it, the message has to stand without me beside it." "I understand. Do you?" "I'm trying to. That can be another request for patience." "I know." Rachel's sentence passed through me and returned to him. "I'll call you tomorrow," Evan said. "All right, Dad?" "Yes." "I love you. I love you too." We ended the call. Hannah slid the tube back into place. "Are you angry I told him you were here?" I asked. "No." "You don't have to meet him." "I know. You don't have to answer." "I know." She gave me a look. "You say that a lot," I said. "I learned from an older man." Her phone buzzed on the bench. She read the message without opening it. Evan's name showed at the top. For a moment, the old hope crossed her face. This time, she did not hide it, and I did not mistake it for an instruction. What are you going to do? I asked. Not decide tonight. Good. She turned the phone face down. Together, we replaced the radio's back panel and set it upright. Hannah plugged it in. The dial warmed from dark brown to amber. Then a singer's voice rose through the speaker. Hannah adjusted the knob and waited. The station held. She sat beside me at the workbench, close enough that our shoulders touched, while the music played, without either of us asking what came next.